Live from around the world, the #1 show on Google Plus Week. Apple ponies up big money to stop the Galaxy Nexus. From Guam, KUM TV news anchor Jason Salas grapples with FCC-friendly Hangouts. British Airways faces controversy over Googling its passengers. And more projects headed for the Google Labs graveyard. Google Plus Week Live starts right now. And welcome to Google Plus Week. I am Dan McDermott, your host, and we have a panel from around the country and some folks from around the world will be joining us. First up, I'd like to say that if you're watching on Justin TV or YouTube Live or on Google Plus, we are monitoring your questions and comments, and we'll be responding to you live during the show. So please keep your comments and questions coming. The first topic I'd like to discuss is this British Airways story. They say they're going to be Googling their passengers to get information. And there's some uproar about everyone's freaked out about privacy. So I want to go to my favorite privacy freak, and that's Alan, of course, who this is a big deal to him. So Alan, even you got to admit this is just ridiculous. Who cares? What do you think?
Well, you know, it's the sort of thing where does anybody really, you know, how surprised are people about this? You know, if the airlines weren't doing it, we already know that the security agencies probably are. It's part of the digital profile that we're leaving online, the digital footprints that we're leaving online. You know, how many people are actually surprised that they're now finally going through and saying, well, yeah, of course we're going to start looking you up and figuring out how much of a threat you are to us. I don't know. It's annoying. It's disappointing. But this is why there are tools out there to help us keep our privacy, well, keep our business to ourselves. And I think it's encouraging that companies like Google are enabling us to do that.
Let me go to Oleg. Oleg, I don't see this as any different than looking up someone's clout score after they do a Twitter rant and checking them out to see if you need to ignore them because they're a kook or if you need to send a helicopter over to help them with their technical glitch. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, I can see either way. I mean, I can appreciate what Alan said, but at the same time, we do live in a 9/12 world, and you know, that's the way it is. So I don't have any problems with them checking on my stuff.
Bruce, so you go through TSA and you get a full cavity search, and then and groped, and then you go on the plane and you freak out because someone Googled you. Yeah, I mean.
This thing is crazy. First of all, you note on the article that you posted that this is British Airways. This is not the airline, so not everybody's preparing to do this. And the reasons they give seem to be more involved around the customer service than really scoping their passengers for potential terror threats. I mean, this is you know, this seems to be more. I mean, they say it's customer service. They want to be able to recognize you as being somebody who had a problem. Maybe you had a delay on a previous flight. And the crew wants to be able to recognize your face and come up and say, we're so sorry about what happened to you a couple of weeks ago. We aim to make your experience much better today.
Now you say this is just this airline. Wasn't there a report about 2 months ago about another airline that was letting people pick their seats based on social networking, and they were going to try to be accommodating
doing
that?
This. I mean, it's a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
And
right.
I mean, why would they? Everyone's going to Google. I mean, they'd be stupid not to, I guess. Vanessa Howell from Google, what do you think? Should people be Googling people?
So I think this creates a tremendous opportunity for all the other airlines to say, I'm not going to Google you. So come on my plane, and we won't give you a second body cavity search.
Maybe that's Southwest Airlines. They'll Bing people.
We won't probe you.
We won't probe you now. We'll probe you later.
Margie or Craig, any thoughts on this real quick before we?
I have something just to dovetail on it. What about
Go ahead.
what about the what is it? Hotels.com or whatever. Which one was for Mac users when they were doing a search? They bring up more expensive hotels based on the browser type because they thought Mac users would spend more money.
It's just metrics, right? I mean, it's nothing different than Craig. If you have a restaurant or a hotel and you knew that the vice president of Disney, there's a big fancy restaurant in Washington, Virginia called the Inn at Little Washington. It's considered one of the top 10 restaurants in the country. and they will absolutely look you up. And if you're the vice president, this is true story. The vice president of Disney was having dinner there. They knew who he was. They checked him out through conventional means, because this was years ago, before the Google. And I think on his napkins, they had Mickey Mouse. You know, this, I mean, it's just, this is pretty innocuous.
Well, wait, my local coffee house, the Muse, uses the square system. When I drive by or when I pull into the parking lot, before I even walk in the door, my picture pops up on their iPad. They know I'm coming. When I walk through the door, hey, Bruce, how you doing? You want that genius sandwich and medium house like you usually get? Yes. So, you know, the customer people at British Airways are saying we essentially want to try to recreate the feeling of recognition you get in a favorite restaurant when you're welcome there.
Yeah,
so I don't see this. This is not any different than what my local coffee house does.
I think it's pretty different, because when you go to your local coffee house, you've got, you know, an interaction with you with a particular system. Whereas if someone's Googling you, they can find anything about you.
Yeah, but my company's using social media. You know, we just engaged with a big company called Extol, just to try to, you know, connect better with our members and our brand and stuff like that. So I just see them trying to leverage social media to come up with a better service. I'm not threatened by this at all.
I agree with Bruce, actually.
All right, let me look at comments, and I'll make one last observation. Then we're going to get to this Apple patent troll story with the Samsung Nexus, which and of course I'll go to Alan first, and then Oleg, because Alan has the Nexus from his goodie bag. Shade SWV, welcome. Good to see you again as well. Carlos is with us. Daft Griffiths, good evening to you, sir. And he said that was Virgin Atlantic allowing people with certain cloud scores to fly cheaper and select their own seats. That'd be nice. I've got a hefty cloud score, so I could get bumped up.
You're one of my influences.
Yes, I'm an influencer, for better or worse. But anyway, I think this is like my mom was an assistant for a dentist back in the day. We're talking 50s or something, 60s, whatever. And she would have to, the patient, when they were in the waiting room, she would look up the file, and she'd go to the dentist, and she'd say, okay, doctor, this is Susie Smith. Her husband is Ralph, and she has 2 kids, age 7 and 9, and the one's getting ready to graduate from middle school or whatever. And then the dentist would say, oh, it's great to see you, Susie. How are Jimmy and Tommy? You know, he didn't have a clue, but, you know, it's just intelligence to give them a better customer service experience. But people will rant and rave, and it makes good copy for newspapers, and we all need more of that and more Googling, so everyone wins. Okay, so next up, Google and Samsung. Now, this story's been updated since I originally posted this, apparently. In a nutshell, the deal is this. The Samsung Nexus, which is a killer phone, it's going to have Jelly Bean. My phone, the Photon, owned by Motorola, which is owned by Google now, or made by Motorola Mobility, which is now Google Motorola Mobility, or whatever they're going to call it, doesn't even have ice cream sandwich yet. So this is going to be I've always heard that and Alan can weigh on this. I'm going to go to him in a second. But I've always heard that the best experience of any kind with any Android devices is with the Nexus, because it's just raw Android. It's not a company having to get the version and then work with the carrier and that company, and they come up with their own version with all these skins and things. Like on a Sprint phone, it has to make a shutter sound when you take a picture, because that's a Sprint rule, not a Motorola rule. So all this stuff, it's garbage. So I want to ask Alan, you have a Nexus, and I guess we got some late breaking news that it's the stay. First, Apple sued Samsung because I guess it was over Siri, right? That they're claiming that the voice is too close.
There are 4 patents apparently that are at contention here, and the one people seem to be talking about the most is the one related to Siri. It's not directly Siri related, but it has to do with using voice to access multiple search locations for results.
It's just a silly thing.
It was filed over a year ago. This is not exactly a new lawsuit, and this is not, there's nothing new here really. It's silly.
Came out with it.
Well, no, it's just that the legal system works slowly, and it finally got to the point where they were going back and forth over injunctions, and it was last week where they finally convinced the judge or earlier this week, where they finally convinced the judge to give them the injunction on the grounds that Apple post a pretty huge bond in case they lose the case. You know, so they're saying it was somebody could correct me on the number. I believe Apple has to post a $98 million bond. So
they
that
posted,
if they
yeah, it's 95.6, I think. So the judge granted the injunction under the condition that Apple post a $95.6 million bond, so that if the ruling went against Apple, that they could cover whatever costs were incurred by the delay. And then Google said
it's to cover whatever costs they lost. It's
right.
You know, loss in revenue.
And they said that what they would do is Google's going to release a patch software fix to get rid of these features or change them to make them so that they're not allegedly infringing. And then I guess the latest, Jeff, you said this, and then I'm going to go to Oleg on this boycott Apple thing. Jeff, I guess who was that had this? That you are muted.
It was
Jeff.
Bruce,
Jeff posted the link.
Oh, Jeff. Okay.
Jeff, can you unmute your mic and tell us what the deal is, what the latest is? I guess it's back because it was out of the Play Store.
Yeah, it's 2 hours ago
but you couldn't order
published
it.
that they lifted the ban until Apple makes its case. It's Federal Circuit Court of Appeals announced that Judge Lucy Cow granted Samsung a stay on the sales ban, and they're going to look at it again. So that Apple has to file a response to the judge for more information. So it's lifted for now.
Okay, Oleg, so what's up? What are your thoughts on this? And tell us about this boycott Apple trending topic on Google+.
Well, as you know, when these reports came out that Apple got their injunction, whatever they call it, so Samsung cannot sell their products in the States. This is when on Google+ there was like a mini explosion of people just writing about it and sharing it, and also basically using the hashtag that says boycott Apple. And this hashtag has been trending for days now, and it's just something that clearly a lot of people are really upset at this point. Before, it didn't seem like some people would make some comments and this and that, and then just kind of go away after like usual news. It stays there for a day or two and then it goes away. And this time it seems like people are so upset, many people, that they just continue to basically bring this topic to the table, and it remains to be seen whether Apple is going to see any kind of dent whatsoever in terms of bad PR, in terms of mainstream media, or any kind of lack of sales. But it certainly shows an example that more and more, I think, people are getting fed up with their policies of not innovating and trying to sue their way to making money.
Well,
which is exactly what they're doing.
Hang on. I think it's, we're seeing a lot of Google fanboys who are making that statement. And
that's
these are
a very good point. That's a very good point, because in the mainstream, you don't hear this at all. I'm not seeing anything from my Facebook friends. I'm not seeing anything from my friends in real life. I'm not hearing any real people talk about this. There's the geek.
What is this real stuff? What is real people? Google Plus is not real people?
As opposed to Google fanboys.
We're the 1/10 of 1%.
Well,
okay?
just to
For
draw
the
a
most part,
contrast,
the
Craig,
media is nothing but Apple fanboys.
But
I mean,
For example, it's
that's what put it up.
not trending on Yahoo, right?
Craig,
it's not trending on,
Craig is
It doesn't matter,
of
Jeff.
Apple products.
The bottom line is that we all know that Apple lately has been doing a tremendous amount of litigation to try to stop Samsung from selling their products. And we all know, we've all seen pictures that a lot of Apple products look exactly. If you look at iPhone, it looks like that the Samsung 700 deal came out before iPhone came out.
Well, then,
so you can
here's the
easily
question.
it's really
Oleg,
it's really
then why
when the
didn't-
patent's issued.
Then why
versus
didn't
when the product
Samsung
comes out.
sue Apple?
Yeah, it's based
Why
on
didn't
Why didn't
Samsung
what?
sue Apple? It's not like Apple hasn't lost patent cases.
It's a tit for tat deal. That's all
I'm
it
sure
is.
they're suing.
They're
suing
suing
Apple.
each other
They're not
constantly.
suing Apple.
Craig,
They're not.
I agree with
Apple
Craig.
claims
Craig,
were
you're
not
an Apple.
substantiated.
I mean, you're a Google fanboy, and you're also a fan of Apple products.
Yep.
But one thing I would say is you do see a lot of folks defending, like the trending topic, boycott Apple. It's basically Google fanboys and tech geeks here on Google Plus. I've never seen whenever Facebook is attacked for a privacy violation or comes under fire in some way, like the stock thing, I've never seen anyone on Facebook start any kind of like support Zuckerberg movement. on there. It's really funny how Google Plus users are far more loyal to Google than Facebook users are to Zuckerberg and his.
Google Plus is filled with Google fans.
But it's not necessarily about Android
Facebook
anyway.
isn't full of
it's not
Facebook
about
fanboys.
Google.
That's the contrast I'm showing. Vanessa Howell, you work at Google, but your thoughts are your own, and you're not involved in this spat. What do you think? This is it's a hell of a phone, isn't it? Do you have one yet?
I do actually. Yeah, that was one of the things that Google blessed us with last year was the Google Nexus. But thank you for saying these thoughts are entirely my own and in no way represent Google's. For me, I think this is. I do tend to agree that in some sense we're a very large echo chamber here on Google Plus. We tend to follow interests a bit more closely than other folks as far as the tech news goes. We tend to be more favorable of Google. I think the interesting thing is I wonder if someone sitting in Apple is thinking, gosh, we're so lucky this just erupted on Google Plus and didn't become a meme that went through the news.
No,
maybe this is an opportunity.
Let me put it this way. I have friends who work with Apple. I have friends who are associated with Apple. I have friends who are Apple fanboys. They have absolutely no idea that we're talking about this here, and quite honestly, they don't care.
Yeah.
They think they're in the right. Yeah. They look at the whole patent suit and they go, they hold up. They look at the Jelly Bean pictures. They look at their iPhone and they say, they sure look a lot alike, and iPhone was first on this one.
Alan, I think there's something.
Yeah,
I think
Apple's not going to.
Else.
Craig, Apple's not going to put $95.6 million up if they don't think they're going to prevail. Because
first of all, that's peanuts for them.
That's not necessarily true.
And here's the deal on this. What it comes down to, in most cases, is what product does somebody want. And right now, whether we like it or not, most people want the iPhone. I have a lot of friends that are non-techies that are, could care less about any of this. But the bottom line is their friend bought an iPhone, and their friend showed them the iPhone, and they got all wowed about it, that maybe they could do Facebook on it or whatever. And so they went and bought one. And it's just like everybody's on Facebook. It's the same thing. Everybody's using that. So that's
not the same thing. There's more Androids than iPhone. What are you talking about?
Let me
it's
say
not the
something.
same thing.
There's no Android phone. There's no Android phone that is sold anywhere near the numbers of the iPhone.
Which takes us to the point about the whole lawsuit with Samsung. Okay, they're not suing Google. This is not a Google necessarily issue.
All right.
They're not suing Google.
I'd like to try to say Samsung. I'd like to try to say something.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
That's fine. But Craig, you have to say that Apple is out of the innovation stage, right? They're in the harvesting stage. In fact, they are doing that. That's because, and they also started to pay dividends because they know they cannot keep that development cycle up like they have. So now I think their ploy is, justifiably so, is slow down the other innovators.
Right.
Well, we'll know when the next iPhone comes out. We won't know that for a couple of months. If the next
it's a tactic. It's not a tactic, right? It's not a strategy. It's not a strategy. It's a tactic.
Absolutely,
Jeff. If the next iPhone comes out and there's no innovation, then I will agree with you. But we won't know until the next one comes out.
What are you talking about? How about when 4 came out and then the next one was 4S?
That's not when they innovate.
I see, because the number is different.
Just like the 3G and the 3GS, it was a
like I said,
performance improvement. The next big innovation will come with the next phone. Now, if there's no big innovation on the next phone that comes out in a couple of months, then I will agree with you that they're no longer innovating.
Didn't the CEO actually say that? I thought he actually said it, and that's why the dividends came out on the stock. I actually thought that they said that the innovation cycle is kind of slowing down.
I think the dividends came out. I think the dividends came out because they just have so damn much money they're sitting on.
I think the dividends came out because they were worried about how the public was reacting to the death of Steve Jobs. And they were worried about leadership, so they wanted to make sure they kept their shareholders happy.
They don't have anything. I bet you they don't have anything to tell them.
All
in
right,
the pipeline.
let's move. I would a couple comments. Daff Griffiths, he says the most interesting comment I've seen regarding the boycott Apple trend. This is a YouTube live comment. Was Chris Pirillo, who called on Vic Gendotra to set the tone and calm people down. Billy Harvey says, Dan, it's worth it.
Yeah, but he's an Apple fanboy. He's not the right person to look at anyway.
Yeah, he was
but
on.
the interesting thing here, the point I was trying to make is, it's not a Google issue. It's not really even an Android issue necessarily.
It is a Google and Android issue.
No,
this is
no,
why
hold
Google
on,
is a
hold
friend
on,
of
hold
some
on,
of the
Alan,
friends of
hold
the
on.
court briefs.
They're
It's entirely a
suing.
Google issue.
They're not suing Google. They're suing Samsung.
No, they're
okay?
not suing Google because it's easier for them to sue Samsung. It's easier
No,
for
no.
Samsung to
They're
sue
suing
Samsung than to get the
Samsung
injunction.
because Samsung
They're attacking
biggest
Google.
competitor
They're attacking
out there in the
Google.
field. That's why they're suing Samsung.
They
Okay.
are attacking Google. Absolutely, they're attacking
This
Google.
is clearly an attack
Again,
against Google.
they're suing Samsung because Samsung is the biggest threat in terms of sales to their sales.
But they're
And
one
that's
and
what
the
they're
same.
suing
All of
Samsung.
Samsung's products are Android, so they're.
This
it's
is
a-
legacy.
I
this is
understand that,
legacy
But
from the
HTC
vendetta.
Android
This is,
products.
this is
which
legacy.
also-
This is legacy activity from the vendetta that Steve Jobs had against him. I mean, he said very clearly he was going to go nuclear on him, and that's what they're still doing. Hopefully, at some point, cooler heads will prevail, and they may stop doing it. But the point is, the money they're spending on these legal fees is probably also peanuts to them.
Of course
So,
it is.
so there's no reason for them not to do it. I mean, if they've got all these lawyers employed anyway, and they just tell them, hey, do what you want to do, and it's probably not a big deal to Apple. They
Do no harm. That's what I say.
All right, let me another comment. Billy Harvey, it's worth it to Apple to lose $100 million in court if it delays Samsung long enough for Apple to capture market share. Apple has a massive market share, but I guess more is better than not. Maudo Jiao wants you guys to all shut up and let one another talk calmly, and it's a lost cause.
Thank you.
It
Clearly
ain't
has
happening.
not
Let's
been
get,
watching
let's get the
this show.
moderator in here.
Poor Margie just sitting there so polite, waiting to be called on. And Pam says, how often are companies like Apple supposed to innovate? She says that she thinks the patents and lawsuits are more worrisome. Shade SWV, I don't think the average person realizes that Android and Google are synonymous. That's an interesting comment. I think, I think they're going to duke it out. I think most people aren't aware of this or don't care, and they're going to keep buying their iPhones. And but this is an exciting phone, and I'm certainly going to get one. You still love? Are you using it yet, Alan?
Yes, I've now switched to it full-time finally. I got my old carrier to drop the number. I've switched to it full-time. It is an awesome phone. It is coming from a phone that I have long considered the absolute worst Android phone in the world. This is incredible. It actually answers phones. You can make phone calls on it. You can use it as a phone. You can use it as a browser. It's smooth. It's a pleasure to work with.
How's the video quality on it?
The video quality is excellent.
Can you give us a rundown?
Flipboard, Alan?
What was that?
Did you get Flipboard yet, Alan?
We'll discuss Flipboard later.
Okay.
Can you,
flips
Alan,
up
can
and
you
down,
just give us a
we
quick
learned.
rundown on the programs that you use the most and what you really like about the phone the most?
Real quick, because we got to go to Gmail next. Go ahead, Alan.
Real quick, I mean, it's the programs that I use the most are G+. I installed Chrome on it and use Chrome. I've got G+. I use the Gmail function. It's basic stuff. I'm now using Drive more and more because I can. I actually use it as a telephone. It's your basic stuff mostly what I'm going with. I haven't done anything too massively advanced here.
Okay, I want to go to Gmail. Oleg wants to talk about this. Mike's, I'm pretty experienced in different things. I started out with, I've had internal email at companies. I use Google Apps and I use regular Gmail. I use Yahoo Small Business Mail. Basically, when I originally got certain domains, whatever I had then, and then I also used different webmail interfaces for different domains. So they all suck except Gmail and Google Apps. Everything sucks compared to Gmail and Google Apps. And apparently, I guess Gmail is better than it was. So Oleg, tell us what the deal is there.
Well, basically, it's not really Gmail. This was kind of a little joke on my part in terms of the headline. It's a new mail from Google. What it is something that I just read a post from, can't remember who to give credit to, but I didn't think about it and didn't realize it initially that when Google interfaced Google Plus with Gmail, they basically enabled you to have, you're able to go to Google Plus and then you're able to put somebody's email address as the person that you're sharing this particular post with, and then that person gets that particular post as an email message in their email box. And one thing that I didn't consider at all, and after reading this thing, such a phenomenal feature that I don't know why people didn't talk about it before. At least I haven't heard it before.
This is the Mike Elgin post?
I think, yeah, it might have been Mike Elgin, yeah. Is that you can actually go in afterwards, after you already post this, and you can then edit the message as much as you want, and the person who is looking in their inbox on Gmail will see the edited content. Not only can you edit it as many times as you want, and they will get the latest copy of it, you can also delete it, which means they'll never see it at all. So if you, for example, send a message, Google, Gmail already has an undo capability where if you set it up through settings, through labs basically, it says if you don't want to send this message within, let's say, 10 seconds of time, then you change your mind because of something you thought and you just change your mind, you don't want to send it, we'll actually let you stop from sending it, which was a cool feature, and I actually use it on a couple of occasions where I'm trying to send something and then I forget it, forget what I wanted to say, and I remember it, and now I want to make sure I get it in there, so I quickly click undo, and then the thing doesn't go out, which was a great feature.
Don't you have to do like a math problem or something for that to not go out?
To do what now?
Math problem. Or have they changed it?
No, I think there was a separate feature where I think it was supposed to stop you if you were drunk from sending an email. And you could send and it would ask you a math problem.
No,
Google Goggles. Google Goggles.
That was a joke. That was somebody's bad joke at Google. But I'm talking about the actual real usability, not joke parts. And in this particular case, they went one step further.
I've used that before.
They went one step further and enhanced it to the point where you can now send messages through the Google Plus interface, basically, which says that if you want, you can remove the message after the fact at any point. And you can also change the message content as much as you want. And so if a person reads the message when they actually get it, then of course there's nothing you can do. If you change it, they already read the original content. But if you change it and they haven't read it, like you sent something to a boss, and then you decided that you didn't really want to cuss them out after all, then you can actually change the content and or remove it completely, which is a great feature. With that being the case, I want to add the fact that if the person does not have a Gmail account, then you don't have the same capability then, and they can't respond to it either. That's one of the limitations of using that kind of approach. But if they have a Gmail account, if they have a Google Plus account, I should say, I'm sorry, not Gmail, then it's a real sweet option to have. And so
I thought with the latest changes that non-Gmail accounts could reply to posts through email. That
not
was
according to this article. I haven't tried it, so I don't know. It may be right. But according to the article, that's one of the things they mentioned. That's a drawback. Is if you don't have a Google Plus account, then you cannot reply to that particular thing, and kind of go back and forth on the deal.
So Oleg, do they get a notification every time you make a change to it? Do they get an email?
No. It updates that same email. It gets updated with the new content. That's all.
How would they know that it was updated then?
They don't.
Well, Google knows.
They don't in the same way that you don't know when a Google Plus post gets updated. Remember, this isn't really email. This is just another way to look at your Google Plus posts.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it just updates the post with the new.
Right. It updates the post, and it updates how it views it through Gmail.
Oleg, we have an online question for you
message.
From Shade SWV. What if the recipient moves the message to another box other than the inbox, maybe even to an offline location?
It doesn't matter. As long as it's within Gmail, you'll be seeing what is shown, what the Google Plus post looks like.
That's all it is. It's just like Alan said. That's all it is. It's not really a new way to do emails or anything else. It's simply a way for you to be able to see and interact with your Google Plus posts from within Gmail.
Within Gmail, correct. It's just like posting.
But the side effect of it, because of that, is the fact that it's updated all the time. So if you do want to change, just like you can update your Google Plus posts, where once you post something, you can certainly go back and edit it. I do a ton of times because of the errors I find or anything else. And so it's a very convenient feature. Now you can do it through, using this approach. If you want to email somebody using this approach, then of course you can change it. You can remove it. The main thing is about being able to remove it. Is the point that they made.
Any final thoughts on this ratings bonanza of a topic, Vanessa?
I think it's really interesting that we're starting down this road of bringing communication together. I think Vic mentioned as well that the idea that you've got Google Plus, you've got voice messages, text messages, and Gmail, and sort of bringing those together. I know Facebook tried this a while back to essentially take your email and bring it into Facebook and make it all pretty much like Facebook messages, and that didn't go over so well. So
No, that didn't go well at all.
It's
Google
not.
can succeed.
It's not there throughout the whole ecosystem because, like, I know on Google Drive when I tried to share something, I needed their email address. I couldn't do it by their Google Plus name.
I mean,
right?
Jeff, even within Google Plus, if you try to appoint another manager to a Google Plus page, you need their email.
Yeah.
You can't send it to them on Google Plus, which is kind of a
Right.
disconnect still.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think when this Gmail feature first started rolling out, one of the things we talked about was how this showed that, you know, moving forward, we were going to see more and more different ways of looking at the exact same thing. So it was going to be, you would be able to use whatever interface worked best for you to see your content, whether that's
we had a question on
Gmail,
that,
whether
Alan.
that's Plus.
What is the benefit to updating the post in Gmail rather than G Plus itself? A lot of us will get notifications in Gmail, and frankly, Gmail's faster on the phone than Google Plus app is. So I will typically look and reply on Gmail when I'm mobile, and the opposite when I am.
No, but you can't do it on mobile.
You can't do it on mobile, though.
You can reply to a message.
No, you can't.
You cannot edit like you can do with Gmail. You cannot do it. No, Dan. I think you're mistaken.
Does it work if you're in the
I can reply to a Gmail
in a
message.
desktop browser on mobile?
I can reply to, if I get a Gmail notification, I can reply to it, and it replies as a reply to the message, to the G Plus post from my phone.
I tried it. I don't think it works. I don't know. We'll have to try. But one thing one more point I was trying to
They did change the notifications in Jelly Bean. I think you could probably do it in Jelly Bean that you can go. You don't have to go within the other.
I'm muted. Yeah, it's because something doesn't tell you that you're muted.
Actually,
one more thing I was going to. One more point I was going to make about this whole thing is that people, a lot of times people talk to me about emails, this and that. Well, I've had Yahoo Mail for all this time. It's a web-based deal, this and this. And no matter how much I try to tell them that, Gmail is definitely better experience in many ways than Yahoo Mail or, even Hotmail, even though Hotmail is definitely, I think, better than Yahoo Mail. I mean, Hotmail is. I still like Gmail the best. But this is one of the features that, again, puts Gmail in a separate category that much better than other web-based email clients.
Web-based. Okay, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it just basically more and more they keep coming out with more and more. We talked before about how can they make it more, the different applications they have and everything else. How can they make it more relevant to people so they will actually have enough reasons there to switch from whatever they're using now. And this is an example to me of things that are constantly being added, where it makes it much more compelling for people to start using their product.
Whenever you don't have to leave the application to respond, to go to another application, it does it. It's a plus, right? No pun intended.
Question for you guys is: are we begging the question though, because we are Google Plus users, that the functionality is that expansive, that great? I mean, I think a lot of people use Gmail, but not necessarily Google Plus yet.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if they're going to experience the same greatness of those features.
Gmail is a much easier sell than Google Plus, at least for me. I can get people to convert over to Gmail pretty easily, and I've done it quite a few times. Whereas getting them to move over to Google Plus as their primary social network, if you will, that's been a huge challenge.
Well,
okay,
I'm wondering.
Real quick, and then I gotta go.
I'd say that. A lot of people just say, we got email. I've been on Yahoo for years. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit better, whatever. But I'm used to this, and everybody has my email address, and you can talk to them until you're blue in the face that how much better this would be if they use that. They still, they just basically stick to their. I even had people that use AOL.com, if you can believe that, and they still insist on using that. So.
Okay, Google giveth, Google taketh away. iGoogle, Google Video, Google Mini, and others. I mean, I never really liked iGoogle. I mean, some people did, and apparently that's where they're getting most of the pushback. On Google Video, is there anything YouTube does or offers that
What was
Google Video?
iGoogle?
It was like a portal page.
iGoogle was basically their attempt to basically directly counter Yahoo at a time when Google and Yahoo were duking it out with each other. Yahoo had this nice portal page that came up, so iGoogle tried to one-up them with your own portal page, and you can put your widgets however you want, and it was expandable.
Gotcha, I remember. Yeah.
You know, and it's actually kind of the foundation framework for a lot of other things that they've done. Hangout gadgets actually are built on some of the same technology that iGoogle is, which is kind of interesting if you think about it too hard.
And it's still functioning. You can just
it will be functioning for another 16 months.
Yeah,
they're not killing it very quickly.
Tomorrow it's over. I just go to iGoogle, the letter I Google. I'm surprised Apple.
Well, there's no reason to go because they're gonna stop it. The bottom line is
Apple should patent iGoogle.
Apple can't
go there now.
Apple
I want to
can't
go to
trademark the
iGoogle.
letter I.
I want to go because it's closing.
Exactly.
They
They should
stopped
probably
using
sue
it,
them.
right?
What
They'll
Apple
lose the
should do is
trademark.
sue them for using the ideal. That's what Apple should do.
You can lose a trademark if you don't use it.
But it's smart. They just continue with the consolidation as they did before. I mean, it's nothing new, and some people say because they use it that it's like anything else. I mean, if two people use it, one of them is going to complain that it's going away. But for the most part, it's not going to have any impact.
Vanessa,
a lot of people.
Letter I. So
A lot of people are talking about how the most interesting aspect might be that we start seeing some of these same gadgets showing up in the white space on Google+. So people are talking about how perhaps they're phasing out iGoogle as a way to get iGoogle users into Google+ and start using Google+ as their homepage dashboard.
Vanessa Howell, do you iGoogle?
It makes sense.
Is that your,
I do.
is that your
I tried it.
homepage?
Actually, what is my homepage? It's just whatever the default tab is, because I find myself doing Control-L so often to get to the search, so that's how I get around. But when I tried iGoogle for the first time, it just seemed like there were all sorts of widgets that I didn't need for my uses. There's the weather. I can look outside and see the weather.
But you can say that about just about anything. I mean, you can't look at it. You can look at the weather, of course.
We don't need Google Plus. I
But
can just call
it was convenient because you could put some of the things you care about on one page. So you could have your weather, and you can have your Gmail even, and you can have your reader, and you can have your chat. I mean, it was interesting and nice concept.
Here's the other interesting thing, is that a lot of the concepts of iGoogle are now appearing in Google Now and Google Voice Search. So yet another random speculation is people saying, well, what if they brought Google Now and Google Voice Search to the desktop, or incorporating that as part of the Google homepage?
Sure.
And tied that all in with the Google Now that's on your phone and your tablet, and all of them work together because, this is the cloud, everything works together.
Right.
Are these going to be, are Google Now cards going to be the replacement for iGoogle widgets? And there's some overlap. I think the biggest difference right now is that right now there is no API for Google Now. It's all controlled by Google, whereas iGoogle had a very, very complete API.
Yeah, you can do the gadgets.
The iGoogle gadgets had a very complete API, so you would see all sorts of stuff from outside.
Did anybody notice Alan making a comment like, Google Now, like all of us have on our phones? Did you notice that comment there?
Yeah.
He's the only one that has that phone right now?
Exactly.
You mean you don't have this? I don't understand.
No, we don't.
Doesn't everybody? Didn't everybody get
for all your suffering, though, Alan, you deserve nothing less. I'll just say that.
Listen, we were talking. Are we talking about the same thing? When I got a G Plus notification. It says RE, and here's what's coming up on tonight's show, and then it says at the bottom, this is on my Motorola Photon, which has an awful camera. It says new, reply to this email to comment on the post.
Mm-hmm. Can you reply?
Are you back on the last subject, Dan?
We're back there.
Well, you guys said it was impossible.
It doesn't work on my phone.
It doesn't work on mine either.
It says
your phone, Dan, with this horrible camera, apparently does things that other phones don't do.
My phone at the
everybody
bottom.
doesn't have Jelly Bean on their phone?
I have
Did you try it, Dan?
Honeycomb, and it says new, reply to this email to comment. Carlos Balderas commented on your post. Mute updates to this post, and I can click to mute the post. I can click to change right in the email.
Can you try it and see if it works?
Yeah, this is okay. I'm going to do this to the. Here's what's coming up on tonight.
I've replied to that. I've replied to that exact post via
All right,
my
I'm going to
phone.
say test
So
post.
tell me if it's there.
Test from phone.
Yeah, but Alan, you got to do it from the Gmail.
I did do it from Gmail.
I'm just replying to
so
the.
then it can be done.
Well, I did it like 10 minutes ago. Has it shown up?
Yeah,
So
I saw it.
That's, you know.
It says test
So-
from Jelly Bean, right?
Yes, that
So,
was
Alan-
sent from my phone.
What's the one more quick question on the phones? How would you compare your phone to the S3?
I don't know because I've never played with an S3.
Yeah. Bruce, are you planning to get a new phone? Didn't you say you might be getting a new phone?
Well, first of all, I'm in market for a tablet, but I'm already thinking about the phone. So here I am on a Dell Latitude laptop. I've got an iPhone, and I'm in the market for both a new phone and a tablet, and I'm just kind of turned off by the lawsuit. Don't want to go back to that subject, but I'm not a Google fanboy or an Apple fanboy.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Alan is kind of a poor example.
Are you going to go Windows? Are you going to go Windows now?
Oh, I'm not going to get a Windows phone, that's for sure.
Because they're the only ones not involved in the lawsuits right now, right?
I thought they were involved in the lawsuits through their Nokia proxy. That Nokia was suing somebody.
Okay, so we probably can't buy any. Maybe buy a Palm.
It has nothing to do
Trio?
with
No,
it has to do everything
those?
with why they're doing lawsuits.
Do you think you'll be getting your phone pretty quick? You think or not, Bruce?
Well, I'm looking at. I have already said, and I will say it again. This is the last Apple product.
No, I know, but what I'm asking is, are you planning to buy the phone soon?
No, I can't do it until November when my contract's up.
I see.
Well,
Because
yeah,
I was
just
gonna say,
say,
Alan is kind of
I have a quick
for
update
example,
for OLED.
because Alan had this horrible phone before, so for him, almost anything would be better. Be interesting to get your perspective because you've been an iPhone user for a while to see how that phone compares to your iPhone. And that would be very interesting to hear.
Probably
Okay,
what's going to happen is Bruce is going to see the new one that they come out with in a couple of months, and he's going to say, "Uh-oh, this is way too good. I'm going to have to stay with Apple."
I know.
I've already checked out to make sure that everything I need is already available in the for the Android, and I'm just kissing it goodbye.
Now, what about the device you use to hook up the mics? Will that all work and everything?
Quick update for Oleg. On that post, I replied in my Gmail on my phone, which is Honeycomb. I said test from phone, and it worked. So that would make me right and Oleg, the other thing, wrong.
So real quick,
That's the first time
before you all continue that argument, Bruce, the device that you have that I got, thank you for the referral. Yeah,
Right, I'm holding it up. Yeah,
will that work with the new phone if you get an Android?
sure it will.
And what software will you use it with? Does that
Well, I won't be able to use BossJock Studio unless they come out with an Android version.
Are they doing that?
I'm on their beta team. I just finished testing betas 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9 this week. I'm talking to them about it. I think they should. They're open to it.
That would be a deal killer for me because I've started using that, and I'm really gonna. I think I'm not gonna use it that often, but when I need it, it's really cool.
Craig, everything's a deal killer for you.
By the way, you will like the new features. Let me tell you.
Jeff? Have you tried this program?
No, I haven't. I'm just
Boss. What's it called? Boss.
BossJock Studio.
BossJock Studio. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. It's a killer app.
Okay.
$10,
Any final thoughts on this so we can move?
Well, I have one last thought, because you were talking about the Chrome experience and all that. Now you can sync up your browsers to your phone, so whatever you were searching for and all that stuff will be on your mobile device as well.
Awesome. Okay, so Jason's going to be in later. He is fixing a drain, and when he's done fixing the drain, he will join us on Google Plus Week and probably be gross. Okay, so Margie, tell us about this news came out, I guess today, or yesterday, that Hangouts are getting captions and transcripts. At this point, a person has to do it. It's not like the Google Voice automatic transcripts or captions, but it's for folks who are hearing impaired. I think it's fantastic. So what do you think? And then I know Dr. Gary Levin wants to weigh in on this as well.
Well, I think it's really awesome. I was playing with it last night, You know, it's not much to it. You have to do it yourself. So, you know, you got to type really fast. I'm sick of typing. But if you have someone who's incredible, you know, typing, can do, keep up. Not in a hangout like this with like 3 or 4 people talking at once. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And if, you know, it's kind of hard. You want to test it. You wish you had someone that, you know, was hearing impaired that actually had a professional, you know, transcription service, so you can actually see it work. But yeah, I think it's great that they're bringing that in. Yes,
Margie, the caption. Where does the caption appear? Does it appear as a sub-caption, just like a closed captioning, or is it outside of the video, or how? Where does it?
It's like the same thing as like Comment Tracker. I have it on right now. It's just, you know, it would be in the same place, just like you see chat. It's the same place.
Okay, so it shows up in the sidebar.
Yeah, it's just alternating colors, white and gray.
I think that's so cool. What do you think, Dr. Gary Levin, MD? This is neat.
I've been playing with this, and I don't think anything's happening. I don't see a caption showing up on my picture, or.
Oh, it doesn't do that.
What does it do?
I think it's an app. There's one integration with something. I guess we don't have enough experience to really get into it, so I don't want to beta test it now. Vanessa, do you know anything about this? Have you been playing with this at all?
No, this is a new feature for me, unfortunately. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but I think that anything innovative like this for
no, it's definitely a useful probably deal. But also remember that Mohammed Mansour wrote a little app for helping in the same department where it automatically, well, I guess no, it was something to do with also helping the handicapped.
Right. I think the important thing to understand about this one is it's several things. One, this is something that Google has assisted with. Their accessibility department has been working with Robert Pitt and other Hangout app developers to work on this. 2, this is a Hangout app. It's using official APIs. That means that when Google makes a random change, things aren't going to blow up, which is exactly what would happen with Mohammed's app. I think it's important to understand this is taking yet another step in helping, in addressing some of the accessibility issues that Google has had.
So here's the accessibility issue that I'm a little bit lost on. If somebody says, I'm hearing impaired, and I want to go into a Hangout, there's 2 things that I'd like to see happen. One is for the change my voice to text, and number 2 is for someone who is hearing impaired to be able to communicate back to me, either through some sort of fast typing, something that turns their text into voice. So that's the disconnect for me, and that's what I'm hoping to see.
You're looking for a teletype operator, basically.
Yeah, but it doesn't do that.
Go ahead.
No, my understanding is that a teletype operator could use this to serve that role, but it requires getting the teletype, getting a third party to do this for you. It's not text-to-speech. It's not automated. It requires a human in the loop, which is fine. But we have to understand that it requires a human in the loop.
Using an automatic transcription approach, like the way Google Voice is, but they're just not there yet. But still, it's awesome. And I think there's one thing where someone signs on as the admin with one app. They could just be watching the thing, and then anybody who wants to see this, they would get the app that watches the transcript. So it's awesome.
It's like Microsoft built a bunch of accessibility tools into Windows, so people can handicapped people could utilize it. And Google is moving in the same direction with some of these things. They're not anywhere near the same level yet, but I mean definitely moving in the right direction to help out some people who definitely need help in using all their stuff. So that's great.
I love the other thing that this unlocks is you can imagine if you have transcripts of Hangouts, suddenly Hangouts become much more searchable. So you can search on the content inside of the Hangout instead of just the name of it.
The only problem, Vanessa, I think, is considering the amount of human labor involved in this, not too many people will be using it in terms of sitting and typing all the stuff for the sake of search. Plus, if it becomes a situation where people see they get some kind of SEO bump because of this, then they're going to start doing it. Then it becomes counterproductive in terms of a bunch of people putting stuff they shouldn't be putting in. Like,
there's always going to be bad guys that try and take advantage.
No, it's usual deal. Anything can be used, can be abused, and of course, they will definitely do that. So, but it's still, kudos to Google though for doing all this stuff to try to help people who definitely have some challenges with using their technology. That's great.
It would be hard on a show like this when people are talking over other people. I mean, I don't see how they can do the transcript and stuff like that. So it would have to be very structured to be able to do it.
Well, then the loudest person's talking would transcribe
next week
in bold
maybe
type.
to invite Booger Bender with Dan.
I think Margie's demonstrating it right now.
Yeah, but I think that it would be, you could do it. I mean, you could kludge it, right? With dragging software and overlays and things like that.
Ermine, yeah, we can have the person on next week.
Cool, that'd be great. I'd love to get his perspective on it. I'll give you his profile.
Okay, so we're looking at Margie. I guess you're typing stuff in.
That's all it is. Yeah. There's nothing special about it. That's what I was wondering. Like, if you have someone that's hearing impaired and actually has an account, with a transcribing, application, it would be nice to see it that way. But, I was kind of hoping, just like Romina said, that, you start talking and it just starts typing, even though it's not perfect.
Is this only for people in the Hangout or for anyone watching, like a Hangout on Air?
I have no clue.
I wonder if that transcript will.
Given that it's an app,
we still can't get them to make the chat available. One thing at a time here. If we could just get the chat available on air, that would be great.
There's a place for a private internal chat, and there are other third-party utilities. I can see the argument for and against that. That's something they're grappling with, but they're not sure that they even want to do it.
Given that
but it could be opt-in. Why not have it opt-in?
Given that this is an app, and right now apps are not transmitted to the live stream, it's clear this is just for internal stuff only right now.
Well,
which is fine. I mean, you have to. It's for a specific set of uses. This isn't for, live transmission on YouTube. It isn't closed captioning, as Pam points out in our comments. By the way, even closed captioning service for TV isn't an automatic. It requires somebody typing it in. There's very little that's being done with automatic transcription currently.
Well, Google Voice.
There's very little being done because of just how inaccurate it is still.
Right. And they stopped collecting. At one point, they were collecting when they had the 411 service to try to make it better. But, But if you look at the whole thing with, they did build in the little microphone into Chrome. So when you do search, you can actually click and say something. Now this deal with Google Now, like Alan has, and everybody on their phone has, or at least just Alan, that's another thing, like he mentioned, that they're going to be probably incorporating that into the whole browser experience. So they're kind of moving into this whole voice recognition situation, and then they're adding some things having to do with translating into text.
Careful what you're saying. Google Now isn't the voice transcription stuff. Google Now is the integration with Latitude.
It's like Siri, yeah. I understand.
No, it's not like Siri.
It's not like Siri?
It's Google Voice Search.
That's Google Voice Search. That's an extended Google Voice Search. Is kind of, sort of Siri-like, sort of.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like Siri. But
that's Google Voice Search. That's not Google Now.
No. But so Google Now is a completely different deal?
Google Now is completely different, and it is completely revolutionary. And thank you, Jeff, for making the hand gestures for me.
Yeah, I was just going to go there.
Google Now is a completely different and revolutionary product. Google Now basically it takes Latitude and kind of amps it up on steroids. So it takes it notices trends in what you do and how you use your phone. So if it notices that you're at home between certain hours of the day, and then at 9 o'clock every morning you drive to a place that you've identified as work, it will monitor the traffic for the usual route that you take between home and work. If there's more traffic than usual, it will tell you 15 minutes earlier, hey, there's more traffic. You may need to get in your car.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with you asking something. It's basically being intelligent on your behalf.
Exactly.
It's like predicted events.
Yeah.
It's an intelligent assistant. It's an assistant.
We're going to call it Google Stalker.
It is Google Stalker.
Alan, does it have anything integrated with Google voice commands or not?
It only has vague resemblance to Google voice commands in the sense that you can use your voice commands to add information to Now, but Google Voice Search is a completely different creature.
No, I understand that, but I just wonder if they're going to integrate the two, so you have a combination of the two working where you can, in addition to it being as smart as it is, it's also, you can also ask questions or ask it to add something to your calendar or something like that, for example.
One assumes so. It doesn't do that now. And that's actually one of the interesting differences between Google Voice Search and Siri. That Siri really is more of a personal assistant that will do things for you. Google Search, for the most part, searches.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Gotcha.
Well, if they do add those where you can command it to do things, and they couple that with the latitude, that seems very compelling.
Well, if
you got enough people on latitude.
Yeah, but here's the problem, and this goes back to our conversation earlier. If they add the stuff where you ask it to do something, then the Siri patents will come into play. So they're treading very cautiously there.
But Alan, so I thought I read somewhere about this Project Magell. So that's not out on your devices yet.
No, it's Majol. Really, you people need to learn how to pronounce the name of Star Trek
it's not important. So it's you know what I'm talking about. So it's not. So they don't have anything on that out yet. Okay.
No, it's clear that Google Voice Search is moving towards Majol, but it's not Project Majol yet. It's not there yet. And our plumber is here, I say.
Yeah, this is pretty epic. I've never had someone. I don't know if I can make it, Dan, because I'm fixing a drain. So how'd it go?
Okay, well there goes my awesome alibi, other words known as a lie, where I was going to make up some incredibly wonderful story about saving the world. You know what? And everybody in the panel, I profusely apologize because my mama raised me to know that punctuality is next to godliness and everything. So I apologize for being tardy to the party. But yeah, I had a drain that just would not unclog, and Liquid Plumber was just not agreeing with me.
And Jason, even worse is that we almost started on time this week.
Really?
I'm turning over a new leaf. So let's go to your first topic here, Jason.
Okay, actually, if I could, because I had you guys running in the background. Fascinating conversation by all of you. I thought that was wonderful about the voice transcription service. I just wanted to add something from my own experience, if I may. That kind of software, because I believe Oleg was saying that, or Jeff was saying that, somebody can just write that. That thing is totally possible right now. I get Alan's point, and that was very effectively made, as well as Margie. Like us, because I worked for a small market TV affiliate, we have transcription software, which is to say that, my reporters and my producers throughout the day, we actually write everything in a word processing application, and then basically our teleprompter reads off of a series of Word documents and then spits that out. And so if somebody enables closed captioning on their television set, that's what comes out. Take a much larger and much more dominant company like ESPN, and they've either used a vendorship product or they've rolled their own innovation. But if you turn on closed captioning for ESPN, they basically translate everything on the fly. And you're dealing with, when ESPN, this is a network where you're saying foreign names, and you're saying every third word's an acronym, like us in the tech industry and everything like that. So that kind of thing is totally doable. How easy it will be to do it on the web is going to be really interesting to see. So I just thought the conversation that you guys had just a few minutes ago was absolutely fascinating.
I always thought it was a person typing. So like when you're watching the news and there's transcripts, they're matching the audio to the because unless there's breaking news happening, almost everything you guys say is scripted.
Okay, well here's a perfect example. And Alan, I know you were at I/O, so I know they had side screens when any Googler actually gave a presentation, and they actually had live text transcriptions, and yet they had people. You could see they had like either staffers or producers, something like backstage, that were actually monitoring the live transcription. I'm assuming they're actually doing that based off the audio feed on the fly, but the accuracy was stellar.
Probably because it was prepared ahead of time, Jason.
That might have been true for the keynote, but for a lot of the presentations where there was closed captioning, where there was captioning going on, that captioning was being done by a human typing it in, because there were questions from the audience that were going on, and those were showing up on the caption screen.
How quick are they showing up?
If they made it into some RSS feed that can go into the stream, that would be perfect.
Okay, let's go to Jason from KUM TV, and I noticed that you have, I guess, started your new show that incorporates a Google Plus Hangout, and you said something that no way in the world are you going to make that public. And we've had some knockdown, really awful people come in a few times. So tell us about your experience and what kind of vetting procedure you're doing and how it's going.
Yeah, so actually, I use my experience as a panelist here on Google Plus Week to kind of enforce a little bit of quality control. So what I was doing at my company, because I remember for those of us who were here in that Hangout maybe about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, there was a gentleman who somehow came in. I guess he was in one of Dan's circles, and the guy actually started trolling in the middle of the show. Like he had a cat icon, and then like for those of us who remember that, he was kind of he was talking out of order and everything, and everybody was like, okay, well that was weird.
That wasn't the worst thing that happened on Dan's show.
No.
Yeah. I mean, so that was one thing obnoxious, and what we did at my employer, so for the TV station I work at, is we launched our new election show. So it's a weekly show that airs every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. local time. And keep in mind that Guam is 15 hours ahead of the U.S. East Coast. And my role in the whole show is I've got my co-anchor, and she's actually doing live in-studio interviews, 15 feet from me on set B. And so I'm up on set A talking in front of a big plasma screen. And I'm going through and curating all of the comments and tweets and Facebook posts that we've had and reading stuff. But I've also got my Chromebook set up off camera where I'm actually doing a Hangout and I'm interacting with people. The problem with it, because Guam's participation in Google Plus isn't exactly thriving right now. And keep in mind that when we went on the air, that was right in the middle of dinner time for most people. So some people, they had the show on while they were cooking dinner or they were taking care of the kids. So I get that. I mean, I've dealt with that for the last 15 years. We didn't have anybody that jumped into Hangout, so I just said, okay, I can either do one of two things. I can just wing it, and I can basically just narrate and ad-lib the entire thing and be the only person in the Hangout, and whoever watches this live on YouTube can just be entertained. Or I can be a little bit more daring and say, just let me invite the community at large and basically make this thing public. And I kind of harken back to that moment when we were in our Hangout here in Google Plus Week, and I was like, with the production being that late at night for you folks in the mainland and everything like that, I mean, it truly is a truism when they say it truly is a truism. Yeah, it's a repeating statement. The freaks come out at night, and I know that that's when a lot of the trolls hang out and everything. So I just did not want somebody to jump into the middle of the Hangout, just cause some sort of ruckus when I'm 10 feet from my laptop and I wouldn't be necessarily to be able to take care of them. And I've said this so many times here on the show and on my own stream and everything. I love the concept that Hangouts brings to the table as far as an entertainment medium, as far as a medium that is conducive to telephony and all of that kind of stuff. But it also scares the heck out of me as someone who comes from radio and print and a TV background from traditional media, that what we are doing is truly live, and we have absolutely no control over what's going to happen 2 seconds from now if we bring in people from the outside.
Can't you use it as a tool to interview ahead of time? The way that Face the Nation, I don't know if they do it every week, but I've seen them do a Hangout. I don't even know if it's live, but it's recorded, and then they interview a panel. They might do it on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then take clips of that to air in Face the Nation. And they were looking for things as they went to an hour-long format, so they had to kind of come up with new little segments. Have you thought about using that just basically as satellite trucks that are free?
Well, yeah, we would like to really emphasize the nature of Hangouts to be, a real-time medium, and anybody can kind of jump in and out if you are a trusted source. I mean, we don't want to invite, like I said, the internet at large here, and get who knows is going to jump on and behave in ways that I can't even begin to imagine. Yeah, and again, this would be like over live TV, and so I've got people to answer to if something should go wrong. And seeing as how this was more or less the maiden voyage of my company's endeavor with Hangouts and introducing this to the community and everything like that, I did not want the thing to implode on itself on its first time out. And Alan's like cracking up right now, so I know I'm going to get it.
The key is to cultivate a panel, and then Jeff, the key is to, just like I've done for this show, what if you had a panel of this quality that were all people from Guam, in Guam? That would be awesome, about whatever topics you guys were discussing, and you just give them the local. If they
Jason,
know about
did you
the
try
local elections
doing
stuff,
a?
but you don't care what we think. I mean, your viewers don't. We're not in Guam. I mean, they want people in Guam. Jeff, what were we saying?
did you do any kind of vetting process beforehand? I mean, like you try to, do some public ones to vet these people and then build it up that way?
Exactly. Yeah, I actually personally did a lot of that thing, but I mean, it's kind of it's a vicious cycle because I mean, we can do so much of the marketing and promotion and tell people, hey, jump in here, this is going to be great. But if nobody from my hometown is on Plus anyway, most people are going to say, well, I don't want to jump in and be a total stranger, even if they know it's like it's us and it's us on TV and it's doing stuff and everything. So I mean, it's a really interesting challenge, but I've got a few tactics I'm going to employ in mind for the next few weeks. And the reason why we did it this far out with our election being in September is we just kind of want to massage the market and just introduce to people like what's possible and say, hey, if you want, you can jump in, you can get in on this too. And I think what we probably are going to do is what Dan was saying is like actually kind of cultivate like a small community and people so that I won't even have to be the one who's guiding the discussions. I can just say, hey, like I'm hosting the Hangout and everything like that. You guys discuss as you will, and occasionally and everything we'll bring that video feed on and we'll actually broadcast that, because then I know, like Sarah Hill has done, I know I can actually trust you guys to actually have a conversation that's going to stay on point, that is not going to anger the FCC gods, and that is actually going to be something valuable for our on-air audience.
And that's the key. That it's got to be good conversation, or your ratings will plummet. I mean, you've got to really get a good panel. Everything's about the people. I mean, the difference between the Meet the Press panel and the McLaughlin group and a Hangout
is it pales in comparison to us.
Is the people in there? Oleg, what? I'm sure
I said it pales in comparison to us.
Indeed. Okay, so your other thing, Jason, you had this was fun. You had a post on the What's Hot list. It was one of those little short posts. Tell us what it said, and it went viral. And,
Alan, were you going to say something? I saw Alan was raising his finger there for a second.
Yeah, no. Go ahead with this one.
Okay.
So tell us what was your post, and what did you learn from that?
Okay, so anecdotally, right, I've always wanted to kind of test the whole ghost town theory, but it was the thing to talk about for the last couple of months, and it was all the rage and everybody was talking about it. So I came up with the idea a couple months ago. I was like, I want to test this and actually gauge the community and see, not only my friends and those of us who have been here for the last year, but also everybody who just came on. And so I kind of waited till after, the IO honeymoon and the whole, the whole new UI afterglow kind of like died down. And so I put a post up, and the post I put is, I'm actually quoting myself, and this is a conversation I had jokingly with a friend in real life, and I said, one of my friends asked me, a female, she said, what's the difference between Facebook and Google+? And my response was about 700 SAT points per user. And some people thought it was fun. Some people thought it was funny, haha. Some people thought it was, incredibly arrogant and narcissistic. Other people thought.
Is that the new SAT or the old SAT?
No, I was judging it by the SAT score.
Only a Google Plus user would ask that question.
Yeah. Okay, and here's
it's just another way. Remember that famous thing when Tom Anderson, the founder of MySpace, Jason, he put the same post up on MySpace and Facebook, and this was one of the famous early posts. I don't know if you were active then on Google Plus, but someone posted the picture of the comments on Google Plus, which were like, yeah, I saw that, or I listened to that on NPR yesterday, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, blah, 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 or whatever it was. And then on Facebook, it was like, lols, marry me, Tom, I love you, Tom. I mean, it's just night and day difference. So it's just a similar type thing. This is just sort of funny.
This is this myth that keeps going around, and honestly, I'm getting tired of it. We have as much garbage cat pictures here as they do on Facebook.
They're better cat pictures.
No, we have the exact same cat pictures.
Yeah, we do. Actually,
in fact, they start on Facebook first.
And they start on Facebook first for you? I always see them on Google Plus first, and then they go to Facebook.
I see it the other way.
Now we have a new thing.
Yeah, but ours are animated.
Today, hashtag was FIDO Friday, so somebody's starting the next.
We've had FIDO Fridays for 10 months now.
Well, it's trending today. I've never seen it.
Those are in response to Catter Days on Saturday.
Yeah.
The big difference.
On FIDO Friday.
It's trending today.
The big difference here is a lot of these people have been here for a long time, almost since the beginning, if not the beginning, and so therefore you were able to connect with a lot of early adopters and a lot of people that maybe you wouldn't have connected with on a place like Facebook. Unless you were there day one. So That, I think, is the big difference here. It's the people that you're connected with, that you connected with early. And so that's why you're seeing a big distinction between this and some of these other networks.
Okay, agreed, and those are all very valid perspectives. Now, the reaction to that post I made, because I saw, like most of my friends and the people that know, I'm kind of a jokester and everything. Most people plus one did, or they said, "Oh, ha ha ha," or it's just Jace being funny again, or some people shared it. It was kind of moderate feedback, and then maybe 45 minutes went by, an hour and a half went by, and then I started getting a lot more plus ones from people I've never heard of before. And the comments started saying like, "Oh, that's funny. Oh, yes, I agree." And they were very, very generic, which kind of led me to believe that it may have gone viral because these are people who I've never connected with before. And then it really took off. And then I kind of got the idea. I was like, you know what? I've only ever made the What's Hot list one more time. It was because I was sharing that video of the Noah's Arcade, that little kid in LA who set up that arcade with like cardboard boxes and stuff. And the reaction was kind of similar. And I kind of noticed that, every 2 minutes I was getting like 25 new plus ones on the post, and like right now I think it broke like 2,000 plus ones, and it's been shared about 400 times. But I'm not being smug about that.
Jason, did your followers increase afterwards? Did you notice a bump in the followers?
Yeah, I think maybe I got like 500. Most people just thought like I was taking a pot shot, or it was just a funny joke. But I worded it in a very specific way, and I actually waited, and it took about 5 hours until some gentleman actually said, he goes, there's a lot of people who are making a lot of very ill-informed, arrogant assumptions about this post. And then I actually jumped in, I commented, I was like, okay, finally, somebody gets my point. I'm not necessarily being all rah-rah Google. I'm just testing the whole ghost town theory, and then I disabled comments on my post, and I was like, okay, somebody finally got it. But it took 5 hours, and it started like.
Jeff, let me ask you, how many people in the comments said, "Who are you and why are you posting to me?"
A bunch, yeah.
And we laugh at that, but that's a reaction that I've gotten a lot. The way I know that my post has gotten on the What's Hot list is when I start getting comments along the lines of, "Who are you?" And then I know that it's somebody who has no idea what's going on. The What's Hot stream is about the only thing in their stream, and I've suddenly shown up there. And every time...
So, Alan, Jason, how does this test the ghost town theory? I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing out on something here.
Okay, well, here's my take on this, because I wanted to at least, put some post out there that would hopefully have a little bit more traction outside of the people in my normal circles. I have people that I talk to all the time about a very finite set of topics. I'm only into computer science and sports and being a goof. I wanted to actually see if I could put something that was relevant enough to a wide amount of people, basically like a joke, and kind of like at first glance saying, oh, let's fluff the Google Plus community, let's act like we're intellectually elite. And for the people that could actually see a little bit past that, they could say, well, he's actually making somewhat of a poignant observation on whether this might be a ghost town or not. Because, put into a certain light, like that one gentleman actually said, he's like, by saying that the average Google Plus person has a SAT score on average of 700 points higher than the average Facebook person, that might kind of lean back to the thing. It's like, oh, it's just a bunch of Googlers and computer science nerds, which is a very valid perspective. So I think what I was able to achieve with that as an experiment was actually show that the community has grown, that there are a lot of new users.
But see, that's what I don't understand, Jason, is how does this show that the community has grown?
Because I was actually getting because the way that people were responding, like what Alan was saying, is people were just saying, oh, like a ha ha ha, that's funny, or who the heck are you?
The problem, I get Craig.
I don't get it either.
The problem, Jason, is that some of those reactions of the people saying, who are you? Those are the same people who think that it's a ghost town because the only thing they see is their What's Hot stream, and that's still the problem. People don't realize they're seeing the What's Hot stream. People don't realize what they're getting, and and people are still thinking, hey, where are my friends? Where are the people who are going to be talking to me? Where's the high quality interaction that people are promising with Google Plus? And that's where I'm still wondering and worried that people still see this as a ghost town.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think it is a ghost town. That's my point. I think it absolutely, compared to something like Facebook. It's a whole different animal. It's a relatively small group of people that are early adopters and that have made a lot of connections and are using it as a valuable tool.
The word you're looking for is click.
A relatively small group of people.
The word you're looking for is click.
May I ask a question? How many people are in your Facebook group? I mean, would you say 800, 1,000?
Me, 1,200 friends.
Okay, 1,200, which is a huge number. Okay, but you know, is that you interact with them? So do you have 1,200 on Google Plus?
I've got about 8,500 on Google Plus.
So you have, hold it. Let me finish my logic here. So actually, it's not a ghost town to you. You have more people on Google Plus. So your town is actually bigger on Google Plus.
I spend a lot more time on Google Plus, but here's my comparison. I post the same photos and the same videos to Google Plus as I do on Facebook, and I showed Dan. I shared something with Dan the other day. The amount of interaction I get on Facebook when I post something is huge compared to Google Plus. There's no comparison.
Maybe they just don't like you.
Exactly.
I'm sure they do.
I'm not being insulting. I've had people tell me.
I know they don't like me on either place, but my point is, if we're comparing apples to apples here, I'm putting the same content on both. Yes. I'm putting the same exact content on both.
Well, some of the stuff's not technical. I mean, Google the posts about science and technology and things like that.
So it's about targeting engagement to different social networks more than it is.
He posts mainly local stuff. He posts stuff about Frederick County.
But my point is, if this wasn't a ghost town, I would get the same reaction on both.
No, you would not. They don't like you. There's certain things that they like, and you're not giving them what they like.
On TV here is not going to get the same people that are in Washington, D.C. You know, Toyota of Melody in Daly City is not going to get people from Washington wanting to use the coupon. You know, it's just
okay. Well, Craig, if I can just add something, and and I think this is kind of interesting, and maybe circuitous karma. How I had those two stories that I've now shared with you guys. How I actually went on TV in my own hometown, and I couldn't get anybody to join the Hangout, and yet I made some kind of like esoteric joke on Google Plus, and I had this huge, massive response to it, and I made what's hot and everything like that. Kind of blends in. I couldn't even get people in my own backyard to join in a free service where all they would have to do is sit in front of their webcam and join me in talking about topical issues, and yet I was able to connect with tens of thousands of people who I've never even met before, and just said, hey, either you're a jerk or you're funny because you're ragging on the SAT score of Facebook versus Google Plus people. And I'll just end with this, because this is the goof of all goofs. I wrote that post, and my SAT score was abysmal when I took the.
Okay, so but where do you get that? Where do you get the tens of thousands numbers from? Where do you get that number?
Judging on the ripples and how the post was shared and how many people plus one it, and
so how many plus one it?
Right now I'd say it was like around 2,000.
Okay, and like 400 or 500 shares or something. So I mean, where do you get from that number? Where do you get tens of thousands?
Well, okay. Well, I'm assuming there. So maybe that's bad on my part. So I'm assuming if there were.
See, my point is, if you did something similar on like Facebook, for example, and it really took off, I mean, you probably would see millions of people interacting with it. So that's the difference. You're looking at thousands versus millions.
Craig, there's a difference though. I mean, we can
final comment, Alan. We got to roll.
There's a difference between a ghost town and not having as many users yet. And while they're related, I think the biggest difference between the two is when people say that Google Plus is a ghost town, they're not necessarily saying there's nobody here. They're saying there isn't as much interaction.
I think it's
what they're saying. Local people. There's maybe 30, 40 people in Warren County, Virginia that are active on Google Plus.
Alan, what they're saying is there's nobody there that I know.
They're not necessarily saying no. They're not necessarily saying there's nobody there that I know, although that may be part of what they're saying. They're saying there is no interaction. They're not getting the same kind of interaction they get elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's because there's nobody there that they know.
No. The reason why they're not getting the interaction because they cannot understand and grasp the concept that the people that are following them are the ones who see their posts. And I'm like, I went over that last night with a newbie over and over again. If people could understand that concept, they would understand it when they're following 5,000 people that are in their circle, and yet they have 15 that are following them. They're not getting an interaction.
I think we should stop. I think we should stop.
Sometimes, if people would understand that the people that are following them may not be active anymore on Google Plus, that might be part of their problem. Okay, go ahead.
And that lends credence to the theory of the ghost town.
Okay.
Well, is a ghost town such a bad thing? Let me ask that. This is a I mean, if it is a ghost town, I don't mind that because I know that
it's a great tool for those of us who have made contacts and have gotten valuable information and tips and hung out with people and met new people. It's a super valuable tool. I'm not saying it's not. All I'm saying is that for John Q. Public, the average person out there, the average Facebook user, for example, they come on here and they find nothing for them. That's all I'm saying.
It's too, but you got.
Okay, Alan, you've had time to play with your Nexus tablet for a couple weeks or 10 days or whatever it is, and I want to know, you've got it there. You originally said, look, this is not an iPad. It's an affordable tablet. It's smaller, and you said it was like an entry-level Kindle Fire type device, but with full-blown Android. And now I'm hearing rave reviews, and you've had another week to play with it, and you're not an iPad user, right? So
I am not an iPad user. I am a Mac. I do have Macs. I've been exposed to iPads and iPhones. I have no bias against them, and I know at least a little bit about them. And I've seen the articles as well that are beginning to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe this really is an iPad, killer. And I see it. I understand where they're coming from. I don't think it is.
The fair comparison will be to the smaller iPad that is allegedly coming out. That would be at a similar price point, maybe a little more, similar sized, but that Apple experience that folks seem to like.
I'm showing this here, and once again, it has the Steve Jobs book on it, which I always find immensely amusing here. But I think just the way they have designed the introductory screens, the way the basic widgets are, the way Jelly Bean is set up, it's very clear that the tablet is designed to take direct aim at Amazon. And whether it can do that or not, well, that's the $199 question. But it's not a position where the iPad is right now. The iPad doesn't really sell itself as a media device. It sells itself as an all-in-one device. The Nexus is very clearly meant as a media device that does other things.
In what way is it not just a straight-up Android device? When you say it's a media...
Why is it not an all-in-one? Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Well, it is an all-in-one in the sense that it has Jelly Bean, it has all the other features. But, let's take a look. This is the screen that comes up by default. You'll notice that the widget that's there, that's the Google Play widget advertising all of the stuff that's in it. I've actually made it smaller. Every single screen that we have is filled with Google Play widgets.
And that's not the case on your Samsung phone, which has the exact same operating system, correct?
That's correct. It's not the case on the Samsung phone. It's not the case on anything else. It's clear that what they've done, the way they're positioning this, the way they've targeted, the way they've set it up, is such that they want you to use the Google Play store. I have a $25 credit at Google Play right now that's there so that I will buy movies and music and magazines and books. That's the only reason it's there. Do we know that the
version you got from Google is the mainstream version everyone's going to get?
Every Nexus has that $25 credit.
Yeah, it's part of Play.
Okay, so that's clearly
part of getting the Nexus.
Yeah, that's clearly to get people out of that Amazon store.
Yes, but it's not an intro tablet. Okay, stop saying it's an intro tablet. It's not an intro tablet.
Well, if the price
I don't think I said it
point
was an
is-
intro
it's a
tablet.
smaller size.
No,
I
Dan
would-
said it.
I would say
Dan
it's
said
a.
it. Do it again.
It's
I would say
definitely
it's an entry-level tablet because of the price point and the size.
It's not, but not in terms of specs. So you're
No, it's
confusing
nice.
people.
Yeah,
You're
the only thing,
You're
the
showing
only
it like
thing
some
that-
sort of low-end device. It's not a low-end device by any stretch.
How
Well,
does
I
it
think-
compare with the new iPad, Alan?
I mean the resolution is slightly worse, but only slightly worse. It has the smaller screen, but the pixel density is not quite there, but pretty comparable.
It's better than new iPad device.
and it only has
How's it
one
better,
camera.
Oleg?
How is
It
it
only has
better?
the front camera.
You
It
take
has-
it to Apple Store, okay? You have them crank up a 3D game on both devices, and you look at how smooth the animation is and how good the screens look, and you will see exactly what I saw on my Prime. The screen is just as gorgeous as iPad, to my eyes, okay? Many people commented the same thing. But this thing also has, but the performance is better on mine, and keep in mind that my Transformer Prime is not as good as your Nexus 7, okay?
It's not-
So
it's
your
not
Nexus
running
7 is
Jelly
even
Bean.
better than mine,
Yeah.
and mine was better than iPad 3. That's why it's better.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to see someone who has both.
Just take it to a store. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
Take it to a store, check it out.
All right.
Probably the only issue is it only has one camera, but for people that don't want a rear-facing camera, that's not an issue.
It's not an issue, exactly.
And
Most
frankly,
people
the
have
cameras and the phones are
phones
getting
that
so
cameras.
good. You don't need. I mean, you've always got your phone,
Exactly.
even if you've got a tablet. If
Right,
you-
but I think that's
Craig,
part
or,
of part of an example of why this is targeted as an advanced e-reader. It's an e-reader that does some other things. It's an e-reader that does Hangouts. It's an e-reader that has the full Google Store.
it's not an
that
e-reader.
plays movies.
Now, can
all-
it do Hangouts on air?
It can. Well, no, it cannot do Hangouts on air.
Okay.
But that's a limitation of Hangouts on air right now. It can
Gotcha.
do Hangouts.
Of course, Craig always has 15 different Apple devices within arm's reach, so he's easily able to compensate for the
You gotta
lack of.
You know what I was?
It has a GPS, right? It
does.
has Google Maps
does,
offline. It
yes.
has a lot of nice things that.
It's a full-blown tablet.
It
with the
is a
exception of the
full-blown
camera.
tablet. Don't get me wrong. It is a full-blown tablet. But Google is clearly positioned it as an e-reader that does everything, rather than a tablet that has an e-reader.
It's not an e-reader. It's a media device. Why are you saying e-reader? E-reader just reads books.
Yeah, it's not. It's
But
not
that's
like
how people
media
think of
device.
tablets. That's how
It's the
people
media-
think of the Kindle Fire, as an advanced as an e-reader that plays movies.
But that's because it's called Kindle, and because Kindle wasn't, not because of that.
But that's my point. Google, in doing this, they're taking aim at Kindle.
Partially.
That's,
Yeah.
that's who they're
But
trying to blow
won't
out
the
of the water
Nexus won't the Nexus do more than the Kindle?
here. Yes,
no, way more.
it does it. It does it tons more.
Yeah.
I'm
It's-
not
it's
saying
a-
it doesn't. What I'm saying is
Right.
the way Google's marketing this, the way they've positioned it, the way they've set up their screens, is
Yeah.
taking aim at the Kindle Fire.
How does it feel in your hand?
Maybe a better way to say it is to introduce the masses to Google Play. You know?
Right, exactly.
All right?
Perhaps.
Maybe
And-
that's a
and-
bit-
and
But
if
for the,
so-
for the mainstream, that's exactly what they should have done. There's nothing absolutely right strategy. I just
How
want to
does
make sure people who listen to our show don't think it's some kind of low-end device that does nothing but movies. It's not.
How does it feel, Alan?
I think it feels pretty good. I mean, there are times when I definitely need to go and use two hands on it, but otherwise it's pretty easy to single hand. It's pretty easy to control with one
What's
hand.
the back made
it's
of?
light. It's you know what? Everybody is talking about the back. It is it is plastic.
But it
But
feels
it's
good.
It's a very tactile plastic that almost feels like a rubbery or leathery surface. It feels very
And it
comfortable.
doesn't feel like it flexes or anything. It feels very solid.
It feels pretty solid unless you drop it on the floor, which I have done once, actually. I dropped this once already, and I noticed it popped open a little bit, but it was easy for me to push it closed and snap it shut again.
Okay, let me look at what the
I-
New York Times said real quick. That's why they're
I
talking
wanna-
about the Kindle Fire, and then it says that's why Google's tablet manufactured by Asus is a ground-shaking arrival. It, too, has a 7-inch screen, costs only $200 like the Kindle Fire, but this time you don't get any sense that its creators skimped to keep the price down. It's sleek and beautiful with rounded edges, unlike the sawed-off rectangular back of the Fire, and a pleather back panel that feels great. And it weighs 2.6 ounces less than the Fire, which makes a world of difference. It's slightly thinner, too, although thicker than the iPad. More important, the Nexus is a full-blown tablet. It's almost capable of letting you create stuff as consume it. It's fast, smooth, capable of running any Android app. So the Google tablet is pretty much blows the Kindle Fire's value proposition into a cloud of ash, but it also undercuts its own Android tablet competitors. For example, Samsung's similar 7-inch Android tablet, the Galaxy Tab 2, costs $250 for the same 8 gigabytes of memory.
Well, what I think we're going to start seeing, I mean, Oleg, you keep saying this isn't a low-end tablet. I think what we're going to see is that this redefines the low end of the market, and that all of the other tablet makers are going to be making higher-priced tablets, but with higher-end features still.
Yeah. It's like a Hyundai Sonata.
And that's an evolution.
You know,
it's a natural evolution.
Right, that's absolutely a natural evolution. But I think this is, this really has redefined what the bottom end of the market is. So it now means if you're making a tablet, if it's going to cost more than $200, you need to have the rear-facing camera. You need to have the SD slot. You're going to need to have the other features that the Nexus 7 doesn't have. And that's a good thing.
I can't believe how many features that has for the price point. It's got GPS. I mean, I can't believe everything they've piled into that.
That's the thing, Craig.
Most of those are mandates if you're going to license an Android device, and if you actually want to manufacture an Android device, they have a set list of requirements that you have to have on board, like GPS and like a camera.
I'm just surprised they could do it for that price point.
No, but Amazon didn't do it, Jason. I don't think that's the case.
No. That's why the Kindle Fire is not marketed as an Android device. You don't see the word Android on it.
No. That's special software.
Open source Android software, and then they forked it, and then that's why they don't market it as a specific Android device.
They don't market it as Android at all.
But it is. They had to license the Android to be able to fork it.
No, they didn't.
No,
guys, it's open source.
Guys. It's actually quite simple. In order to have the Google Play Store, you have to play by Google's rules. If you don't have the Google Play Store, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I see.
And actually, what we're going to see more of, and I hope we see more of it, is now that Google has released the development kit for developers, I hope we're going to see not so many forks, but original, a lot more not necessarily licensed implementation. So we'll see even cheaper tablets that can skimp a little more on features, but will be using some of the most recent Google releases without having to do their own crazy forks.
Alan, why did they go with Asus instead of Samsung for this?
My understanding is they went with Asus because Asus had a tablet out about 9 or 12 months ago that was very similar to this and was meeting the price points that Google wanted to see. So they had it mostly done already, and they could get the real thing to market faster and cheaper.
And
I think what's going to be interesting to see is later in the year, Kindle is probably going to be releasing their Fire 2. We're going to see what they're going to do to differentiate against this, i.e., how are they going to make it even cheaper, and what corners are they going to have to cut to do so? And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if Apple gets into the market. And you can bet that Apple is trying to figure out how.
Well, how is your battery life on that?
Killer. It is amazingly good. You know what? For both of these devices, the battery life on them is incredibly good. I'm not even sure I've run the battery down on my tablet yet after running it for over a day, sometimes in areas that had very poor wireless signal. My phone, I don't even know what it is yet. At the moment, I've charged it this morning. It's not even down past 80%.
Yeah, but Alan, what do you do on it mostly? What do you do on
it? Not much.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's one of the reasons.
Admittedly, not much. However, what I've tended to do is instead of replying on my desktop to email, I've been trying to use the phone and tablet instead.
Yeah,
when I do video, I've been doing a lot of video on both of them. In some cases, just to try to run the video down, run the battery down. But even so, they've got incredible battery life. Whereas the worst phone in the world, if you look at it funny, you lose 10% of the battery.
A lot of it, Alan, as it ages, it gets worse, and you'll as you add more apps, it's like Windows, like a creep. What do they call it? It gets laggy over time. So if you keep it lean and don't you know, try an app, but if you don't use it, get rid of it, because all that stuff slows you down. And then if you ever have a problem with it, and I did with my phone, it crashed or whatever, and they had to do the factory reset at the Sprint store. And I realized that the battery life and the speed and general performance was dramatically better after that reset, because all that lag over time had occurred. A couple comments from the internet. So every screen is essentially an ad for Google Play. You can get rid of those widgets, right? That's just the default.
Oh yes, it's trivial to do so, but Shades WV is absolutely correct. Right now, by default, they're for Google Play.
And part of the reason they can pack so much into that thing for $200 is because they're hoping to get you hooked. And I think I saw a study where people who have a Kindle Fire spend more than people who have a Kindle, who spend more at Amazon than people who don't.
Yes, and this is true. However, the teardowns of it that I've seen have indicated that while Google is not making much money on this, they're not losing money on the device either. So the device, that's about how much the components cost these days.
Daft Griffiths, non-U.S. customers who buy a Nexus 7 will not have access to magazines, TV shows, or music like the U.S. version. That is the case. I'm not sure how long-term that is. I wonder if the apps that are shown pay for a featured position. I wonder if the Play Store would become annoying if shown all the time when you try to move on to the next thing. I'm guessing, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is that pay? Are they sponsored or just recommended by Google? They would indicate that, right? It'd be a sponsored.
Most of the ones that we're seeing right now are the ones that were given to us for that you get when you get a Nexus 7. So, for example, just by getting a Nexus 7, as I flip to the screen, they give you Dark Side of the Moon for free. So if I actually wanted to watch Transformers, I could watch Transformers. I don't know how things like the recommended movies are picked, which you can see now in the bottom, but it wouldn't surprise me if it is some combination of based on my previous preferences and based on anything that has a preferred pick to it. But I don't think it's as straightforward as a pay for a featured position. Google is too clever and subtle about things like that.
They'll make their money. I mean, they're going to recommend stuff that people will buy and will be good, and they make their money through the sale.
See, I would love to see Google come out with that same device, but a higher line unit with a high-quality rear-facing camera. Imagine that thing set up on a tripod, shooting a video with Bruce's dongle. That would be the perfect in-field interview device where you got that nice big screen where you can see exactly what you're doing. And, you know, a lot of people buy a 7-inch screen and put it on a DSLR as an optional screen.
Yes,
for the same reason.
Craig,
that thing would be fantastic.
It wouldn't surprise me if later in the year, as we get closer to the holiday season, if they roll out a whole line of Nexus products.
Well, they already rumored that. I mean, people
the rumor is that Nexus 10 is.
But also, let's not do the whole anti-Amazon fest here, because you're kind of comparing apples to oranges to one degree. You're looking at a device that was released much earlier. Number one, you're looking at a company that has a track record. So when they come out with a new one, we'll see how, at that point, it'll be a good comparison to Amazon. It's not a good comparison to Amazon right now, because you're looking at a device that's really old by internet standards.
So do you think Amazon's going to come out with something killer before the holiday season?
Absolutely, I bet on it. I bet money on it.
They're going to try to get it for Christmas. Everyone's going to try the new iPad and the new Kindle Fire for Christmas time.
Also, don't forget that Amazon has a major pool in terms of retail, in terms of how much they do in sales. Google doesn't do any sales, so that's another big plus for Amazon devices, because people shop on Amazon, and so there's nothing Google can do to counteract that deal.
Amazon,
so it'll be interesting to see.
Amazon already proved what the market for it. It already proved that the 7-inch tablet had a market. I mean, they sold so many units and they made so much money off of it. It's amazing, off that Prime.
And they definitely cut into the Apple's sales because of it. I mean, it's a known fact. And Amazon has the best record as the best, most loved company out there right now in terms of customer service and everything else. So, I wouldn't count Amazon out at this point. No question that Nexus 7 is better than the existing Fire, but that doesn't mean that's going to be the way, going forward.
Yeah, they're great. What Walmart is to retail and McDonald's is to restaurants, Amazon is for online shopping. And they're unlikely to be thrown anytime soon. Margie, you said that Google Plus needs a Google Plus Tips stream. Why don't you explain what that's about?
I was just thinking that, well, I'm relaxed now.
You're very relaxed.
Because it's hot. And when it's hot in Mississippi, my lights go off. But, yeah, Google Plus needs a Google Plus Tips stream. It will definitely help the new users. And, to actually start to learn the platform, because there's so many little things about Google Plus, little nuances that majority of us are early adopters all know about, and we haven't posted about in months, and all these new people are getting on, and they have no clue about just little things we know about, like going and unchecking a little box in Picasa Web, so that, you know, if you did send out notifications on a picture to that person, if you add like photos into a photo album, that those people don't keep getting notifications over and over again every time you add a new photo into an album. Just little stuff like that. And I think it would just help people that are lost on Google Plus to be able to find their footing and to be able to just fly, you know, solo on Google Plus. But they can't do that if they don't know what they're doing.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
Part of the problem, in my opinion, with this kind of thing, it's like anything else. Any piece of software you get or any service you use, you have to take some time. There's a learning curve. And so no matter how many streams you come up with, anything else, you cannot substitute taking the time to learn something. But I
totally agree with what you're saying.
I think it's more complex than that, Oleg. I think the fact that Google doesn't really encourage learning about these nuances things. And I think one of the advantage of having something that would appear in your stream is twofold. Not only are you getting tips, but you're getting them in a format that helps you learn about how the system should be used. I mean, that's kind of one of the problems that we have with What's Hot showing up in your stream. As Jason discovered before, people are seeing these posts and they don't know where they're coming from. They don't know who's posting them. They don't know how this stranger ended up sending them a message. Having something in your stream helps you understand the concept of, hey, you're following this person. Because you're following them, you're getting it. If you want to stop getting this information, you stop following them. You dial it back. These are things that both the tips would be teaching you, but also these are it's kind of teaching you in the same format that the system itself runs.
I don't know, if you look at examples of the past, for example, you know, shining example is Microsoft Clippy. That's a shining example of that kind of approach.
No, that's a shining example of just the opposite, actually.
Absolutely, it's a totally example of providing help in a way where you get these tips, and so you can use these tips. You know, it's getting, do you want some help? Yeah, I want some help, and it's trying to help you. It's a similar type deal.
No, it's
Most
not.
people hated it.
The reason
and people turned it off.
The reason why they hated it is because Clippy was outside of their regular workflow. It was outside of what they were trying to do, what they were doing. Clippy was an interruption. Having something as part of the stream, in theory, would make it a regular flow of what you're doing.
No, but if you look at it from a standpoint,
do you have What's Hot stream on in your stream?
I have these come up, yeah.
Exactly. So you have it on. Like, I had mine off for months, and recently, actually, I've turned it back on since so many of you are up in the What's Hot stream, so I kind of want to know what's going on with it. So, you know, it's an easy way to broadcast to millions of people. We can't do that with just a page. And there are so many pages that have been abandoned, or Google Plus tips this or that or whatever. People aren't paying attention to them. They're not getting interaction on that page. They're not getting feedback. And the people that need help, they have no clue where to go to get that help. But if Google was initiating a tip stream where they would just, you know, easily give videos, tutorials, how to use Google Plus, what's going on with Google Plus. Hey, we're having a glitch right now that you're seeing people in your stream that, you know, that you've not circled. Hold on, we're working on it. Chat's down, we're working on it. So everyone can calm down a little bit, know what's going on, and just also have tips for new users. And like, hey, these 20 people are brand new to Google Plus, you know, add them to your circles, make them feel home welcome. That would be great. I mean, if it's not an inconvenience to have the What's Hot
I understand your point, and I think for some user it might be helpful. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying, look, using the example I used with Microsoft, you know, the point Alan made, which I think he basically contradicted himself in saying that, he says it was interrupting people.
What? It was interrupting people. That's why people.
Hold on a second. He said it was.
No, Oleg. I'm not. You're not going to put words in my mouth, and you're not going to make a.
You said it's interrupting people. You said it's interrupting people.
It did interrupt people.
So why am I putting words in your mouth? That's what you said.
No, I'm saying Clippy interrupted people, and you're trying to say that a stream would do the same thing.
What I'm trying to say is that you said it interrupted people, meaning the things that they knew how today, it was getting how to do. I mean, it was getting in their way. That's what you basically were implying. It was interrupting their flow of work.
Yes.
And my point is that Clippy was intended to help people. So if you don't know how to use it, then it would help you use it, which is exactly the point Margie is trying to make.
No.
Get new users assistance.
No. I mean, what would be the difference if the What's Hot stream is not an inconvenience, is not in your way, it's not in my way? I don't really notice. I mean, if there's something there, I'm just reading and I look up, I'm like, oh, that's in What's Hot stream. Okay, so I find out, you know, Will Wheaton's angry at events. I just get 2 notifications, or Jason SHE thing that I couldn't comment on because he had disabled the comments. You know, and it's not a bad thing. And to have a tip stream,
I think if they had
to have millions of people, because what other way can you broadcast how to use Google Plus, how to get photos into an album when you don't have that, you know, capability to do on mobile? How are you going to teach people how to, you know, just little stuff about Hangouts?
Can you imagine the number of these tips you would have to really truly cover it? Can you imagine that?
So
Jason,
what?
don't you think, Jason, that the
people would turn
the users
it
can come up with
turn
these
off the What's Hot
things?
stream.
There are books on how to do this.
Exactly.
There's Google Plus for Dummies. There's What the Plus. There's
there's
Zach Kawasaki's
million
book.
posts for newbies.
You're assuming they are seeing these newbies. Most of the people that probably are seeing this are majority of us, you know, the early adopters, you know, regular users that have been on for like 5-6 months. But do you actually think that the people that need to see these types of posts are getting them? I mean, I spent 2 hours last night teaching Google Plus to someone. I didn't cover everything.
If they do a little bit of searching, they would. Why not?
People don't know how to search. It's something you got to teach them. You don't search on Facebook.
It could be more intuitive. When someone encourages Jason.
No, I think this is a really interesting argument, because to what Alan and Oleg were talking about, you know, Alan brought up Clippy and everything. If you think about it, Clippy actually literally and figuratively predated Siri. It was basically a help agent that was given a certain type of personality to try and help you throughout and learn the system and try and like guide you along with that. Now Margie brings up an interesting point, because she's like, why don't we give the control of a tip stream and put that in the hands of the user and let us kind of do things? I think the reason why that kind of facility doesn't exist right now is because if you actually give people the right to say, like, you know, here's like you know, a set of rules, or here's like some guidelines and everything on how to use the system, that kind of limits the amount where people can actually develop their own idioms and their own, you know, like ways of using the system, and just say, like, you know, even
so. I mean,
no, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, like, you know, one of the reasons why Google Plus continues to grow is by the different ways that people have used it, kind of like off, you know,
yeah, but why do we always say? Why do we early adopters always tell people on every magazine and every television show and to all their friends when we're talking to them, chilling on the phone and Facebook, wherever, you're just not using it right?
Yeah, no, like look at
I never say not using it.
No, like look at Twitter, for example.
Said that.
There's no such thing as using it right, because it's all very.
You know, maybe they're morons.
Oleg, Vic Gundotra said that. That's a quote.
So what? That doesn't mean it's the Bible because Vic said it. I may have a different opinion.
Bible. Everything
it's not.
We see here is Vic Gundotra's doing.
It's not the Bible. I'll give you another example, also from Microsoft. There's Clippy had a brother. His name was Bob. Remember how well that went?
Yep.
Yes.
So those are perfect examples of mass use of that kind of tool that did not take at all.
Well, even though people still what I'm talking about. Look, I'm not talking about that. The What's Hot stream is not an interruption to me. It's not an inconvenience. If I don't want to deal with it, I can turn it off. Early adopters, they don't need tips. They can turn it off.
Right, exactly.
I'm still learning stuff, but I'm going to tell you, I learned Google Plus because when I first got on here, July 2011, everybody and their mama was posting tips 24/7 because we were all trying to learn this.
Well,
I learned so much because of those people.
Most
we were all together.
Most people want content.
I like content, but it gets to the point where you don't know how to use a platform.
I don't use 10% of the stuff I could do on Facebook.
But here's
the time I go there is to post something. You know, I'm going to be on Google Plus Week to you know capture that audience, or I might check just to see how a couple friends are doing or what they're posting.
Right, but Dan, it goes back to how do you get the content? How do you learn about what content to get? Oleg, the biggest difference between tips in a stream and Clippy the idiot is that tips in a stream are part of the natural flow of how you use Google Plus itself. The nearest comparison to Clippy and into Google Plus is when it pops up help balloons all over the place trying to point out features to you. That's the Clippy equivalent, and that is garbage because people dismiss them as quickly as they can because they're interruptions into getting to what they want to do.
Okay, let's go to Google Plus is integrating their Google Plus features into the Chrome App Store, and that's just a continuation of their efforts to. Jason, or let me go to Bruce. Bruce, I think it's interesting. Like we've talked about CRM and things like that, different applications, and Oleg is helping me, although I've procrastinated on it for about 10 days, develop an app. But Bruce, if I were looking at a CRM or vice versa, because you know we're both sort of managing teams of salespeople, if I saw that you had +1 in the App Store, that would be very relevant to me and helpful, right? Rather than some random interview from someone who may be spam or maybe from the company. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense. You know, when we ask people all the time, you know, I'm in a Hangout and somebody says, hey, have you heard about this? And I say, no, I haven't heard about it. Like somebody was making videos with Animoto, you know. So, you know, yeah, if you go to people that you trust, that you know are, you know, on the cutting edge, kind of paradigm pioneers in this field, I want to know what they're using. Absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Have you guys, like, I know, Jason, you're, all of us have Chrome apps. This is clearly a neat thing, right? I mean, this is, do you find it, I mean, I'm sure you, just on the web in general, do you find, Jason, is it, when you're doing a Google search, when it's plus your world, where you're getting things, on the one hand, it can be annoying when you've read all the stuff they've shown. I've already read this, you know, and it's kind of clouding it up. But on the other hand, I found it helpful a number of times when I find an article from a trusted source. Obviously, we are all a trusted source on many topics to each other because we're all friends. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, I think this is just the natural next step, right?
No, I think it's been a great help for me as I stumble across that, because like if I try searching for something on programming and everything like that, because I've dealt with Alan all these months and everything like that, I think I've got a very good idea of his software development acumen. And so if he happens to share an article that I've never read before and it says, you know, Alan Furstenberg shared this along with some other, you know, generic posts and everything like that, I'm more apt to open that link and everything like that, because I know if he endorsed it and everything like that, that's probably going to be along the same lines of what I'll be into. I also think, you know, like the generic web approaches, I mean, there's still merit in that. Where this benefits Google is, of course, is if we can combine the concept of identity into our searches and, you know, giving everybody almost the ability to take ownership of their activity online, such that we, you know, basically create these digital breadcrumbs wherever we go. I mean, that works for them. And it's the whole thing about it's this now considered the age-old argument of the native approach versus the web approach. And there was a wonderful article written, and somebody actually kind of begged the question if Google is becoming like what Apple became when Steve Jobs brought up the Macintosh, and how he basically like tore his company in two, and he said, okay, now we've got the Apple people and we've got the Macintosh people. That journalist that I'm referring to, and I forget the article, I'll try and link to it, but he was saying, you know, like it seemed from I.O. that you have to belong to one of two camps. There's either the Android camp or the Chrome camp. Which division are you in? But he actually had the foresight to say, and he's like, you know, but Google is a smart enough company to say whichever one of those two platforms persists and takes off, the other one will just kind of like integrate it better, and it's not going to like say like leave one in the dust.
Okay, let me go to Alan, and then let's try to bust through this, and we got a few more topics. We're going on 2 hours, so we want to. Is anyone getting a fluctuating volume level from Alan? Is that
from
just
time
me
to time,
or
yes.
anyone else?
Yes,
yeah, me too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Alan, your volume is fluctuating dramatically. So
That's
let's
no
try and
surprise.
see if it's fixed.
How do I sound now?
Well, it's fine that
It goes
just
up
keep
and down.
tell us your thoughts on this, and we'll alert
I
you.
wanted to point out that Jason has hit the nail on the head when it comes to the two divisions inside Google. It's really, really clear sometimes. For example, we have a Chrome store and we have Google Play, and they're two completely different entities. And you can see when some product rolls out, does it show up on the Play Store or does it show up in the Chrome store? And you got to wonder, why are these two sides almost but not quite talking to each other sometimes? So it's an excellent point, and I've been wondering that for a very long time as well.
Alan, do me a favor, and I'll go to Oleg. Why don't you, maybe you should F5, and remember, if you report this is about 2 hours in. We'll be able to find it pretty easily. We'll be about 2 hours into the recording. We've all heard it, so we know it's not some. You'll be able to hear it later. It's fine for about 15 seconds, then it's real low for 10 seconds, then it's back up. I've seen this before with one or more people sometimes at the same time. Let me go to Oleg. What are your thoughts on this? And Margie, and then we can roll on to and try to bust these other topics out real quick.
Well, my opinion is that the two things are a little bit different, partially because they came from different camps, and partially from the point that they are for different markets. I mean, the Chrome store is something they had to crank up to be able to run all these applications for people who don't have Windows. When they came out with the Chromebook, I mean, you got to be able to get the application somewhere to run on the Chromebook, and now on the Chromebox. So they had to have that put together. At the same time, you're running it still on a desktop-like computer. You're not running it on a mobile device, which is what Android Play Store basically is for.
Well,
so I think
but that's not true anymore. I mean, Google TV is running Android. Why is it running Android and not Chrome OS? Why is a Chromebook running Chrome OS and not Android? What are the differences between the two, and why is that important?
That's a very good point.
You got to remember, on mobile, they didn't have Chrome for a long time. They just released Chrome very recently for mobile devices. They didn't have Chrome on mobile devices.
Right, and why is that?
Why is that?
Yes.
You got to ask Vic. Vic knows why.
Well, it's in some ways a rhetorical question, but it highlights the split in this company.
At this point, yeah. But I think those are the reasons why they have it as two separate things, and basically that. So my guess is they will continue. They will try to marry them.
It's the sort of thing that we saw at Microsoft years ago, and that's the fact that they in some ways they're competing against themselves. Microsoft for a long time had two of every single product that they owned, because for some reason they felt a need that they had to compete against themselves. Apple was in the same stage for a while, and now it's Google's turn to be competing against themselves.
I don't think it's that at all. I think it's because they bought Android as a separate entity and it was developed with its own team. And it basically was a different group of people, which was just kind of like a subdivision of Google. And then until relatively recently, the whole thing started to gel more, and people started talking like you're saying. Why is it different? There's really no reason. Why can't you combine the two? It's the same thing with the talk about fractional Android situation.
Hey, Alan, may I ask you? Since you were at I/O, what was the general pulse about Google TV? Because I know a lot of people expected TV to be a lot more.
Oh, you didn't hear my comments about Google TV. You didn't hear my comments about Google TV last week. Google TV had a very, very prominent place in what was called the sandbox, which is their showcase area. It had a very, very prominent place, and everyone was very surprised when the Q was released on the first day with no mention of Google TV, and they were surprised when on the second day there was no mention of Google TV as part of the keynote.
Sure.
And one of the big talks was that Samsung, I believe it was Samsung, no, I'm sorry, Sony, had a Google TV party the evening of the second day, and the head of the Google TV division was at the Sony party, and he gave a keynote speech at an after-hours party. And a lot of people were going, what's going on here? Why? There's a lot of confusion and a lot of people wondering and not understanding what Google is doing with the TV versus the Q.
Because I've been hearing some buzz, and there's conspiracy theorists actually seem to think that the Q may wind up cannibalizing Google TV, because of course it is a streaming media server, and like some people say, like Google TV hasn't really capitalized, or been able to live up to its expectations in that regard, so the Q may wind up taking it over. Personally, I was kind of disappointed in what came out of I/O, because I was expecting Google TV to be a little bit more on
I was too.
No, with Hangouts. I am blown away that they have not integrated Google TV with Hangouts yet.
I was too.
But don't you guys think that they make money from content that they sell in the Play Store that would stream over the queue, but they're not making money by
stuff in the
Google
Play Store
TV,
that they
right?
stream over Google TV? That's the confusing part. You kind of expect we kind of expected them to announce that Google TV would now have the Play Store in it, because that's Android under the covers. So you're wondering what's going on. My feeling, and this is my personal feeling, is that just like you notice that the queue is actually called the Nexus queue. My feeling is that the Nexus queue was them saying to their Google TV partners, hey, you guys have been making garbage hardware so far. Here's how to do it right. Now go out and do it right.
It's really an observation I would make is we've seen, it used to be back in the day, you had your computer operating system and the phone was a whole different thing, and your car has a computer system, and it's all sort of integrating. Windows is going in one direction, taking its desktop new Windows software and pushing it out to different types of devices, because the Microsoft Windows operating system and Microsoft phone software years ago was two very different things. But now Google has done the Chromebook and the Chromebox, and they're pushing Android on all these devices, and it's really interesting how you're sort of seeing these software platforms propagate in different places and sort of all becoming intertwined. So it's a seamless experience, and the best example of that is the queue, that crazy thing where everyone's programming it to play their songs and taking over, and but it's really interesting how things are all becoming integrated, and you don't have you'll be able to do sort of the same things in all these different devices based on whether you're in your car or driving or walking with your phone, or at work on the desktop, or at a coffee shop on your tablet or laptop. Any final thoughts?
Can I get a quick poll, Darren? Can I get a quick poll? How many people in this room, by a show of hands, please, actually have a Google TV set-top box? How many of you guys run it? I do. Okay, so I'm solo here. The two things.
I'll be honest. I was hoping to get one at I/O.
Oh, you poor thing.
And instead, I got this queue.
Poor.
And I don't want to belabor the point, but the two things that really disappoint me, because basically my honeymoon with Google TV is over. I love the platform. I use it every single day. It's an amazing product that I can actually bring the web onto my TV, and as a web developer, that's great because I can actually write code on my TV because I'm just that geeky and I have no life. But the two things that disappointed me about that,
Jason?
Pardon me?
Can you please repeat that last sentence one more time?
Oh, I have no life and I'm a total idiot.
No.
I will. Okay, so the two things that have disappointed me are, again, the thing that Google TV has not integrated Hangouts into that, because think about that. If you could actually use your TV as a de facto phone, for lack of a better term, where people can actually call you using Hangouts, and as Hangouts continue to develop and everything like that, why would you even need a landline anymore?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got it. I got the CD.
And you kill. Sorry about that. You also kill.
Okay, so while Oleg tends to that, the other thing that really disappoints me about Google TV, at least right now, is that the browser that ships on that Android operating system is, what are we up to right now on the stable version of Chrome? It's up to like version 20, I believe.
20 something.
And the version that comes with Google TV is the Linux build on version 11. So there's a lot of capabilities that browser cannot handle right now. And I'm just hoping that, even though, like Logitech said they're not going to update anywhere past Gingerbread. So I'm hoping they can at least push an updated version of the browser application independently, if not the entire OS. But I really, really want Hangouts on Google TV, man. That would be so cool. If I can actually do things like this with you guys on my TV.
I think it's coming. I think it's coming. Especially with Microsoft buying Skype, I think it puts a whole new realm on that particular end of it, because you got to look at Microsoft, what they're doing. You look at the integration with the Xbox and Kinect, and they bought Skype, so you immediately start putting the two together to figure out what they might be trying to do. So I think Google putting Hangouts on Google TV, like you said, Jason, is absolutely essential that they need to do this to be able to compete.
Okay,
and I think
let me move real quick and let's bust these topics out. There's a lawsuit against Google. It's a really interesting lawsuit. The headline here from GigaOM by Jeff John Roberts. Google stole the sharing idea for Hangouts, and YouTube a lawsuit claims. New York startup claims that the video sharing feature in YouTube and Google Plus is based on concepts that it showed to Google when the two companies met to discuss collaborating strategies in 2011. In a lawsuit filed in San Jose, the company CamUp is accusing the search giant of copyright infringement and trade secret misappropriation over a Watch with Your Friends button for videos. The button allegedly directs users to a Hangouts page where a user can watch the video with other members who are on Google's social network, Google+. According to CamUp, Google VP Marissa Mayer and company engineers approached the startup during the South by Southwest Festival. Soon after, the two companies reportedly met in London to discuss ways to integrate a Watch with Your Friends on CamUp button directly into YouTube. CamUp says the Google executive was extremely enthusiastic but did not follow up to calls despite an assurance that he would be in touch. In May of 2011, CamUp says it noticed a dramatic spike in traffic from Mountain View, California, a jump it attributes to Google engineers studying its product. The next month, Google launched Hangouts and included a Watch with Friends button that was allegedly identical to one CamUp had showed it a month before. The lawsuit includes screenshots of both watch buttons and a note that Google has since altered the button. Google says it has yet to see the lawsuit and declined comment. What do you guys think about this? Obviously, you don't want to try a case. We're not the jury here, but that's kind of compelling. Is this just a natural progression, or is this something that...
This is the first time I've seen the name associated with which senior Google executive they talked to. Marissa Mayer, I don't know what she was doing last year, but it sounds like she is located out of the Mountain View office. So, and the dates that are given sound like they don't quite jive with what we've heard from Chi about where they were working with Hangouts at the time. So I'm not sure how much of it is who approached who, where they learned the ideas of, and if Marissa thought this was a good idea, and then when talking about it with other top Google executives, someone said, oh, hey, we're already working on that. You've got to stop talking to them now. Because that could very well be an issue, is if somebody realized that they're already working on a competing product, you need to cut contact immediately. But I don't know what actually happened there. I'm speculating, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Any thoughts on this before we move on?
It's hard to believe that Google would be that inept in terms of making this thing. Making that kind of...
It's hard to believe, really?
Is it,
For me, it's
a trademarkable thing?
Oh, I'm sure it is.
It's a patent.
Look at Amazon's plus one-click deal. I mean, how original is that idea? But there was a lawsuit because of that.
We've been doing video chat since like forever, since Yahoo Messenger and AOL. So I mean, seriously, come on.
I mean, I think it's like
you're right, Margie. But this is more Watch with Friends. And it requires
There's nothing. I mean, I just don't believe that. That's just BS.
It's not anything mind-blowing, but at the same time, if they had it patented, then they probably have a case. Who knows?
Well, is it like something that's patentable, Oleg, where it's original, unique enough, or is it something like if Zuckerberg tried to incorporate group chat?
No. But remember the lawsuit that Amazon had with over a one-click deal, one-click buy. Remember there was a lawsuit about that? You can kind of look at it as a similar deal. I mean, how original is the idea of being able to click once to buy something as opposed to be going through checkout?
Well, look,
there was a lawsuit about that.
Here's the thing. This certainly seems like an idea that was patentable. Whether a patent would survive a lawsuit is another question altogether, as we're finding out now. But this certainly, at least on the face of it, sounds like a novel idea. One of the comments we had from Daph in our YouTube comment stream, CamUp's Watch with Your Friends sounds more like the social movie viewing that some people would love to see within Hangouts. And I think isn't that something that we have now with the latest YouTube apps now?
Absolutely. Yeah, people do it right now. Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's the argument that CamUp is making, is that this integration that we are seeing now, in fact that we've sort of seen since the beginning of Hangouts, stole their idea. Now how much of it was stolen and how much of it was developed in parallel and how much of it is because of their contact? That's the question.
So are they going to sue every other...
What if there was a Hangout integration with Netflix? Wouldn't that be sweet?
And Jeff isn't even here. He's been talking about that for ages.
That was Jason that brought that up quite frequently. Yeah.
I know before South by Southwest, I had admitted to Chi that I was watching, I think it was the playoffs in the football with, on somebody else's screen, sharing that whole entire thing, and wouldn't that be cool to do in Hangouts? Now, I don't know if they have it patented already, but I would agree that these are conversations that Google was having prior to this conversation with them at South by Southwest.
Maybe it was a case of they were thinking about doing it anyway with Hangouts, and they were trying to determine, do we want to work with this company or not? But we're going to do it either way because our users have been clamoring for this.
I think there's, and this was last year's South by Southwest, not the most recent one. But I think there's a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of plays that this could have played out. And I think the only thing we're going, it's going to have to watch and see what develops in the course to really see what happens.
Yeah, it's pure speculation. On our part, it doesn't really mean anything because we don't know what happened. We don't know if any paperwork was signed. We don't know if there was an NDA. We don't know if, it could be said it's here and say. They said they claimed they talked to her about it, and like Alan said, they already were working on it anyway. So, I mean, how would they have a case on that? And
if
plus,
that's the case, because if this was 11, they said, I think it was a month before they even launched Hangouts. So they wouldn't have been,
And if they have a case, then to me, Hermine was talking to Chi before. She has a case too then, if that's the case.
All right, Google has submitted a bill for $4 million for costs in their lawsuit, in which Oracle had their ass handed to them. Oracle's patent and copyright assault, I'm reading from Ars Technica. Is that how you pronounce it? Ars Technica?
So. I don't speak Latin very well, but I think so.
Google's Patent and Copyright Office has submitted a $4 million bill. It's a lot of document copying. The federal court rules allow the prevailing party in a lawsuit to recover its costs for things like transcripts and photocopies, but not for the fees paid to lawyers. Google's legal fees aren't known in the case, but were likely in the tens of millions of dollars.
My understanding is that in order to have proceeded with the suit at all, Oracle agreed to pay all legal fees if they lost.
In the same way that Apple had to fork over a bond for $96 million in order to get the injunction.
But this was even more than that. This was basically the court saying, look, I think you're going to be wasting all of our time. Do you really want to go ahead with this? And Oracle said yes. And the court said, well, if we go ahead with this and you lose, you're going to have to pay the other side's court fees. Are you okay with that? This was are you sure? Are you really sure?
It was worth it, though. $4 million is nothing to them, and it was a huge potential payoff.
Sure, and had it gone their way, Oracle would have done nicely. It didn't go their way, so now Google wants to say, hey, we want to be remedied for all the time we just wasted on this.
$2.9 million for processing and duplicating documents. $1 million for paying 1/2 of the compensation for the court-appointed damages expert. $2 million to pay for a person to, I guess he had a team doing research, and $143,000 for paying for. You'd think these companies could come up with some way to do this in the cloud, where you don't have to photocopy all this stuff, wouldn't you?
You'd think so, but I'm willing to bet that Oracle doesn't really understand the cloud stuff, so they actually wanted paper.
But if they sue someone, then they can get rights for it or get money. I don't know. Screw Oracle. They lost. Ha ha. All right. And then the last.
That's what we call journalism, right there. That kind of comment.
Yellow journalism. I own 3 tabloids, though. Like, they're not broadsheets.
Okay.
Last topic. Google censors firearms products in shopping search. I just thought that was interesting. They can censor whatever they want, right? But if you look up, I guess they actually showed where they actually, in their terms of service or something, it says you can't list bullets or guns in Google Shopping. I don't know.
Yep. No big deal.
You're in one of those crazy states, Anthony, where they're really anti-gun, right? I'm in Virginia, where everyone has a gun.
I am.
Yeah, but Anthony is in one of those regions where they're pro-gun. New York State is a strange state. It's difficult to paint the whole state with the same brush.
Well, it's still not like you're not. I don't own a gun, so I probably can't speak to this. So.
Any final thoughts on this Google Plus week, Anthony Klauser in Rochester, New York?
No.
Just
Epic.
like Oleg and Alan, nothing to say.
It's a wasteland or whatever they call it. No thoughts.
Ermine, any final thoughts on this wonderful Google Plus week?
You know what? I was actually going to type it in and say that you guys did an excellent show. I was on the phone. I had to take it, but I was watching it, and I was just completely on edge with what you guys were saying in the chat room. So just kudos for all you guys. That was it.
Thank you so much.
I mean, thank you. We don't have any money for you this week, so.
Margie, any final thoughts on this Google Plus week? Oh, you tipster, you?
Nothing.
Nothing. I'm getting off easy so far. Oleg, any final thoughts on this Google Plus?
Well, it was good.
Adorable kids behind you.
Thank you. Yes, it was good to see that there were some changes we didn't talk about. Like for example, today when I was joining this Hangout, it came up and said that Dan McDermott is inviting you to a Hangout, and actually showed pictures of people currently in the Hangout. So that's a new thing. I haven't seen that before, and I think it's very nice. They keep adding new things to it. I mean, as we knew before, but it's a very nice addition. Because a lot of times when you're trying to join a Hangout, unless you use something like many Hangouts or whatever it's called, my Hangouts, I guess, and stuff, you don't really know who is in that Hangout unless you look at the post, which shows there. But when you actually do the joining, you just said, you're just joining. Now, it's nice that on the invitation itself, on the notification, you can actually see people there, which is kind of cool. That's
one of the problems with what Margie was talking about, coming up with tips and a really good manual or video. You spend all that time doing it, and just like poor Guy Kawasaki wrote that wonderful book.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is fantastic, as you've said. I haven't read it yet, but everything I've heard is the general advice on posting and the way to approach the network. But I mean, all the interfaces changed like within a couple weeks.
This is what I would recommend do instead of doing a stream. What I'd recommend is buy the book from Guy and give it as an ebook to every single new sign up for Google Plus. That's what I would do if I was them.
People don't read Oleg. No, I mean, Oleg is probably a wonderful book.
It is a great book.
It teaches an awful lot, but it's totally divorced from how people are going to use Google Plus, so they're not going to read it.
That's not true. That's not true at all. It's actually specifically about what people should be doing, how they should be using it. Read the book. You'll see it. It's an excellent book.
Oleg. I think it's an excellent book. I do agree that people will learn an awful lot from it, but the nature of how people tend to do things is if it's outside what they're trying to do, unless they set aside time, they're not going to do it. And unless you give them a reason to set aside time, they're not going to set aside the time.
Well,
any final thoughts, Alan Furstenberg in New York?
I think this has been a kind of chopped up week for Google. I understand a lot of them took vacation, especially after I/O and with the 4th in the middle. We didn't say too much last week about it being Google's first anniversary, but it was, and I think from here we're going to see Google really taking off. I predict a lot of really cool things starting next week.
I am this is always this is a highlight of my week. I get to hang out with my friends, and we get to have a nice conversation. We were faster paced than usual, which I was trying to push to get that done, but it still was 2 hours. We had a lot of topics. But thank you all for being in the panel, the folks who came and went throughout the show. It's great to have Vanessa Howell from Google here and Jason Salas from KUAM TV and Ermine. Nomir, who
and Margie.
I finally got it, and Margie, 4 people who are infrequent but always welcome. And anyway, I want to thank you for watching, whether you watched on YouTube Live or Google Plus or on Justin TV, and I'll probably put this on Huffington Post if you watch there. Then thank you so much. And remember, we're live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, every Friday night. You can find us on YouTube Live or Google Plus. Just Google it, and maybe British Airways will discover us as they Google stuff. But thank you very much for watching, and I want to wish all of you a very extraordinary Google Plus week.